every year. And as Karen Pratt reports, this year the traffic is almost as busy up there as it is down here.
Oh, it's a very high level of sophistication. It's been developed over the last 5 years. The first time we tried it, obviously, a lot of it was trial and error. It's always been very, very safe, but we've been developing our procedures up until this year, and now they're completely complicated and very, very sophisticated.
Foster's 1 to 1,500, track to operate south of the Etzer building, hold there.
Complicated, certainly. On race day 1988, there were 1,152 aircraft movements in the track control area. That compared with Sydney Airport's daily average of 750.
The sort of traffic that we're handling here, just at the Grand Prix track alone, is at least 3 times the amount of traffic they would handle at Adelaide Airport on a normal day.
Adelaide Airport's traffic doubles this weekend too, but the track is where the makeshift but impressive control systems come in. Perched atop the Queen Victoria Hospital, adjacent to the track, is the Nerve Centre, a little box containing experienced tower controllers with direct communications to all the necessary places.
So that funny little cab up there has direct lines to Adelaide Airport Radar Centre, to Adelaide Airport Tower, to Parafield Tower, and also to the Race Control Centre here on the track, because if anything goes wrong on the track, we have to start sliding aviation events all over the place.
They deal with a majority of helicopters, but the aerial entertainment is also a very demanding coordination exercise, from parachutists to FA-18s. They proudly claim there's no holding here, unlike Sydney Airport. No stacking, no confusion, and most importantly, no collisions, unlike on the ground.
Dear. Oh, big bingle now, straight up the back of Douglas. Look at this. Oh, off he goes into the wall. That's bad luck.
But the track action is of little importance to these fellows. The Grand Prix has a different meaning to them.
We always say it's a good air show, and it's just the motors are there for somebody else's benefit.
Yes, it is. Well, Silverstone's very much the same, isn't it?
Yeah, the helicopter movements at Silverstone are the busiest in the world for one day, for one airfield.
And it's very busy here now. Look, this is the pit special of Chris Baru. He's doing his thing. He's done it every day around about this time. And I tell you what, this is a marvellous little aircraft. It can just turn itself inside out. And Chris is obviously a very, very good pilot. Well, as I said yesterday, the man most of us here are not talking to at Nine Sports is Alan Jones, because he got a ride in an F-18 and we didn't.
This was to be a birthday AJ would never forget. Formula One was never quite like this. Sure, they wear one-piece suits and helmets, but the similarity ends there. They were gearing up to go flying at about twice the speed of sound. And F-18s have a bit more horsepower than Alan was used to. So he had some crucial technical questions to ask.
Do you have air conditioning in it?
Yeah, air conditioning's good.
What does that do?
That's part of the ejection seat where we have bowlings connected around your thigh area and another one connected here. When you eject, your legs go back into the seat. So if you eject, right?
This is worse than the gear that you've got to wear in a racing car.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about a racing car, but once you've worn it for a while, it's pretty, you get used to it.
Okay, well, Tom Cruise, eat your heart out.
Just before you go, Alan, you might need this.
What is that? What's that?
It's a spew bag.
A what?
A spew bag.
Oh, good one. This is sounding better all the time.
No, you're right.
You wouldn't need to put it.
All for the birthday.
Hey, sugar.
Alan, I meant to mention that after takeoff, we'll accelerate pretty quickly to about 200 knots, and then we'll just put it straight up into the air, about 30, 40 degrees nose up, and by the end of the runway, we should be about 4,500, 5,000 feet.
That's at the end of the runway?
At the end of the runway, yeah.
Thought you was James Dean for your day. Then I guess just had to crash. Valerie could have held that if I said, hey babe, take a walk on the wild side.
We've got the hot mic switch down here. While it's on hot mic, you'll be able to talk freely to the pilot.
Right.
If you have to throw up and you're going to make some noises which the pilot won't want to hear, you can switch to cold mic, and that way that'll stop your transmissions.
Well, we're not going to throw up, are we, Wayne?
I'm not.
No. No, I said we.
What's this wee, white man?
Okay, any questions at all about anything?
No. Empty, and he's been telling us about it ever since.
God, it's boring.
It's boring. But I tell you what, winning world championships opens doors, Jackie.
It does. I've had very similar privileges as Alan enjoyed. I went up with the Red Arrows. I went up with the Stab 3000. That's their equivalent aircraft. I tell you, the G energy up there, my internals were never the same for about 3 weeks. They sent me up the first time without a G suit on. I tell you, I was ill for 3 weeks.
They tell me you age dramatically too. You see yourself when you're 90. You know, it's a frightening aspect.
When the cheeks start to ripple back with a G.
The instant facelift. Well, we will have more from Adelaide right after the break at the 500th Grand Prix.
Hello, I'm Sena. You are watching The Wide World of Sports. Stay with us.
Up in the heavens, live we are, over Adelaide, and parachutists just about to make their jump onto the circuit. They're about 10,000 feet up, and no matter what you've got on your back at that particular stage, they could not push me out that back door. No way in the world. Well, here we go. Formula One is a 16-race flirtation with disaster, and that's the nature of the beast. But look at the nature of this. This fellow, I think he's... Will I or won't I? No, not just yet. I'll have a think about it. Maybe the time isn't right, the height isn't right, and maybe they're not just quite over the same location. Out the back they go. Out the back of the Caribou it is, for this wonderful pictures live over Adelaide. The Army parachutists. Beautiful pictures. And if you were up there, this is just about how it would feel. It's as close as you get without going up in the plane and making the jump yourself. But beautiful pictures, and there's our Canopy Cam live over the circuit. Beautiful, beautiful shots.
Okay, just about over the city. You can see the other two are just built, the biplane, and I'll be coming insert again. Yeah, just sit in. Yeah.
Right, well, we're listening in a bit of the conversation taking part between the parachutists on their way down here to the circuit, and part of the celebrations that are taking place in Adelaide. Well, as we said, Formula One is a 16-race flirtation with disaster beasts, and the drivers tend to be pretty fatalistic about the risks involved. But what about their wives and girlfriends? When it comes to the crunch, are they the battle-hardened as their husbands? Well, here's the report with Anne-Marie Sparkman.
Helen Valentine may look like just another glamorous Formula One accessory, but the Belgian-born beauty is an essential part of the Nelson Piquet racing team. 5-year companion of the triple world champion, she's also the mother of their 2-year-old son, Laszlo. Just a short stroll down the pits, Rhonda Warwick is also closely checking her husband Derek's practice times. Married for 15 years with 2 girls, 12 and 9, they've survived in the Grand Prix Goldfish Bowl for 8 years. These are the other halves of the racing heroes, living in a world that is definitely not all Tinseltown.
It can be difficult, but no, it's all right. It's not that bad because, but of course they have a lot of people around them and girls, but you know, if you trust somebody, it's not a problem.
Formula One is not that glamorous as it seems. It's a lot of hanging around. It's nice when the cars are racing, but just sitting around here now until 1 o'clock when they go out again can be pretty boring and hot.
Obviously, it takes a lot of courage to be a Formula One hero, but in a strange sort of way, it takes a lot of courage to be the wife or girlfriend of one of those Formula One drivers. After all, it's the ladies who can only stand by and watch as each week their men lay it on the line.
Well, we have to learn to deal with that, but of course it's something that is in you, and every start of the race you fear what will happen. I mean, you think what can happen, and it's not very good.
Elise's drive, as I said, is almost unbelievable. Oh God! That is a Lola. That's all I can tell. No, it's Derek Warwick.
Rhonda Warwick tries not to dwell on the downside, but only a few weeks ago the dangers became horribly real when Derek was involved in that spectacular crash at Monza.
I was terrified really because the only thing that stopped me was my elder daughter was there. She was just going off to a party. I was pacing up and down the room. My little girl started to cry. So and I had tears in my eyes. I thought, no, I can't cry. I've got to look after her. And as soon as I saw him running up for the next car, which I couldn't believe he was going to get another racing car, I relaxed a bit, and then someone phoned me up just to make sure that, you know, I was okay and that he's okay.
Both women admit it's not always easy to keep the family unit together. Constant travelling and long absences take their toll. And when they are trackside, they also have to play psychologist, knowing exactly how to treat their men after a tough day at the office.
It all depends what kind of race he's had. If it's pretty miserable, he's a miserable man. But no, he gets over it quite quickly. We play golf, so he usually swears around the golf course. The bet's not on.
The bet is on, darling.
Did you put the thing in the hole then?
Just let it hang there.
Is he a moody person about his driving? Does he get very upset if things don't go well?
No, he's a very nice person in that point of view, because while he's on the track, it's his work, he's concentrating on what he does, and that's it. But once he goes out of the track, he's a completely different person, doesn't think about it anymore, and that's fantastic.
But despite all the drawbacks, Catherine and Rhonda agree they would do it all over again.
I would never ask Nelson to stop driving because of that, because it's his life and I respect it.
If you could look back in hindsight and say whether or not you wanted to become a Formula One wife, what would you say?
Yeah, no, I enjoy it.
I didn't realise you were a film star.
I know. No, I enjoy it. They have the drawbacks because Derek's away such a lot and the children miss him so much. But we have a nice sort of lifestyle as well.
Although Catherine has other plans for her 2-year-old son.
I prefer if he chooses another sport, or like tennis or golf or something less dangerous.
Well, Jackie, you had plans for your son too.
Yeah, I endorse that. I would rather that he was a golfer or a tennis player and keep his old man in comfort for the rest of his life. But Paul is a racing driver. I must say it's changed my life completely. I was a very selfish racing driver personally. Paul, I now understand how Helen felt, how perhaps my parents felt. It's not a good feeling to see one of your own out there, one that you love very much, taking the risk that I know exists. But it's their lives, it's his life today.
Yeah, you can't change that, can you?
No.
We will be back with more after the break.
I'm Roberto Moreno. I'll be driving the Benetton 19. I hope you all be watching us Channel 9.
Live pictures from the RAAF Roulette's aerobatics team, and we will be talking to the boys a little later. Gee, I tell you what, Jackie, Roberto Moreno has had a terrific run. I mean, he's had a bit of a Cinderella run just recently after a few bad breaks.
Well, a real apprenticeship he's done. He's been through the mill. He won this Australian Grand Prix a few years ago in lesser formula than Formula One. But he just came onto the scene after Nannini's accident with helicopter. He now has to justify his position in this team, perhaps by today's race. But they have on their books 2 other drivers that they're seriously looking at and looking at buying out their contracts to get them in the team, because that Benetton Ford team are now a serious team to contest. Obviously, they finished 1st and 2nd in Japan.
All right, well, let's see how Roberto feels all about that.
The Japanese Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. For Benetton, their biggest ever result, 1-2. For Roberto Moreno, the final breakthrough. Only a few days before, Moreno was in Formula One Siberia, driving for the under-financed Eurobrun team, failing to even get on the grid. Then Alessandro Nannini's tragic helicopter accident gave him the chance he'd always needed. With Nannini out of the game after microsurgery to his severed hand, Benetton sent out an SOS to Moreno. With a competitive car, the Brazilian showed his stuff.
It's difficult because I'm not a guy that would cry, and it just happened. I had this emotion only 4 times in my life. It was hard for me. It has taken me twice as long as probably most of the top drivers. But it's something I have to live with it, and I've learned. And I just have to enjoy and do the best performance I can.
Until the Benetton break, Moreno had become the forgotten man of Formula One. Always acknowledged as highly talented, the tiny Brazilian had risen through the ranks from karts to Formula Ford to Formula 3000. But without the big bucks behind him, Formula One success was always just out of reach. This year things looked more promising at Eurobrun until once again the money ran out. But despite all the setbacks, Roberto never gave in.
I never thought about giving up. I've thought about many difficult times, but the greater the problem, the more time I spend to try to resolve. And that's how it worked out. I just wanted so much to do this, and that's all I do in life. I concentrate 100%, and I put 100% effort on it.
Moreno's also getting a big kick out of teaming up with his boyhood idol and countryman Nelson Piquet. The two met in Brazil in 1971, and the triple world champion has been his role model ever since.
Nelson's like my old brother. He gave me the chance I always wanted at the beginning. I look to him with great eyes and admiration for what he's done. And with a bit of luck, I'll try to follow his career.
Obviously, the Benetton Chiefs were impressed with Moreno's debut performance at Suzuka, and the backroom boys are clearly working well with their new driver. But Roberto is taking it one race at a time.
I have a very good team that put all the effort for me. Although I was unknown when I came to this team, what I could do and what the results could be. They put all the effort, the ability, and the know-how behind to give me the best car that consequently gave me a good result in Japan.
So as Roberto Moreno finally turned the Formula One corner, despite that fine drive last week, he still hasn't been offered any contracts for next year. Perhaps after all, it will all depend on how he does in Adelaide, depend on whether or not Benetton decide they can have 2 Brazilians on the same team.
I have to be realistic about this because 2 Brazilian drivers in the team might not suit all the sponsorship. So I just have to wait, forget about for the moment, do my best in the next race, and I'll work on it after this race. With a bit of luck, who knows, the sponsor might even consider to to keep 2 Brazilians in the team.
He's a lovely little fella, and there is the Benetton 4 that he will be driving this afternoon. He really did appreciate what happened to him in Japan. It's lovely to see that.
Absolutely, and yet another Brazilian driver. That country has produced so many very, very good racing drivers.
Yeah. Well, the car looks good. Everyone's ready. David Brabham, what is it? Kangaroos and David Brabham, you better believe it. I hope he goes very, very well. He believed if he doesn't expire this afternoon, it's he or his car in this weather, though.
No, I think he could finish in the top 10.
I hope he does. And more activity on pit lane, flags, as per usual. You've got to have the Aussie flag out there. And, of course, lots and lots of colourfully dressed girls.
You really do put on a better show than any other Grand Prix over here.
Well, that's nice, Jackie. Coming from you, it does mean something because you have seen them all. We will be back with more after the break. Welcome back to Adelaide. We are only about 15-20 minutes away from that. The actual time is flying by, and we haven't got too far to go. It's going to be a great race, and the colour is all splashed over this course. It is a beautiful, beautiful scene, and a terrific crowd on a wonderful day for the 500th Grand Prix. And right now, I'd like to welcome to our Grand Prix coverage Flight Lieutenant Mel Hupfield, an F-18 fighter pilot, but you're going to be telling us a little bit about the roulettes, who are travelling in much slower aircraft than you're used to.
Yeah, that's right, Ken. The roulettes have just changed to the PC-9, very capable aerobatic team. I don't know a whole bunch about aerobatic manoeuvres myself. I've been told what they can do, but they're involved at the moment in part of their looping manoeuvres. They have a great deal of experience in their team, all experienced instructors from Sale in Victoria and from various walks of life within the Air Force.
At what speeds are we talking about with an aircraft like this?
You're looking about 200 knots, or that's about 400 kilometres an hour.
And G-forces?
G-force anything up to 6.5 G in most of their manoeuvres, but generally about 4 G they'd be using in most of their manoeuvring.
What do you think about these live pictures from the Academy?
This is quite incredible. I haven't seen this before with the roulettes, but yeah, if we could get one on an F-18, that would be fairly impressive.
Will you let us?
I certainly would. The engineering staff is sometimes a little bit wary of that, but I'm sure we could get around that.
I want it focused in Jones's face.
In fact, yeah, if you could have had it on there for Alan Jones's ride the other day, I'm sure that would have been quite interesting.
Yeah, the eyes were popping out, they tell me.
Yeah.
Well, I think we might try and join live the man who's leading the guys around the skies right now, Flight Lieutenant Peter Barrett, Squadron Leader rather. Let's check out Peter. Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, Ken, I can't talk. You can't talk to me there at the moment.
Well, that's business. He's engaged.
He's in his job there. He's extremely busy. He has the responsibility of the whole formation behind him to keep them clear of the ground and to perform the manoeuvres extremely accurately.
I notice he's using his head a lot. Obviously, his eyes are everywhere. I mean, you can see it very visually there with our onboard camera.
Yeah, he not only has to perceive where he's flying his aeroplane to line it up exactly over the track, but he has to keep sight of all members of his formation to ensure that they're in the correct position so he can perform the manoeuvres as they become necessary.
What has happened to the Mackies? We got still a couple in Australia. They've been phased out completely.
No, we still have Mackies. The PC-9's become the basic and advanced trainer now, but the Mackie is primarily used for advanced training before people fly the F-18.
Is this flying this sort of aircraft? Would this be a letdown for you after jumping into an F-18, or is it completely different again?
It's completely different. I would say that flying any aeroplane is never a letdown, but in terms of performance and the type of flying you're doing, this type of flying is extremely exciting, just like flying a fighter is exciting as well.
Well, Jackie, you've seen some of the great aerobatic teams of the world at various air shows and, of course, motor shows and so on. I mean, in America, they are very, very big on them and do the planes up something fantastically, don't they?
They do, but our own Red Arrows in Britain, I've been up with them. That was an experience to behold. Just to be able to see aircraft so close together, working in such unison. It was real poetry in motion, really, to be able to see these people be so close, go so fast, be able to be so precise from where they come out of loops to where they get down close to the ground. Just look at that precision right there, and what a privilege it is for us to sit here and see this kind of picture live.
It certainly is. And what would be the separation? What's as close as they get? You got any idea?
Yeah, you'd be looking at about 40 feet as a normal separation. The wingspan of that aeroplane is around 30 feet, so they're quite often, the wings would be just slightly overlapped in some of their manoeuvres.
And no disorientation at all?
No, not really. They've been highly trained, so they're used to all that. The big pitch is always there.
What about turbulence? Do you get affected? Because we in racing cars get affected by the turbulence of the other vehicle. Do you get that in the aircraft so close?
Yeah, extremely so at low level. With a hot day like this, lots of thermals in the area, and this manoeuvre you see they're doing at the moment becomes extremely tricky with turbulence.
How long would it take for somebody like yourself to get attuned to this type of flying?
Well, we, in the fighter force, we actually do a lot of formation flying, but not so much aerobatic flying. It would take a workup, I guess, of about 3 months minimum, I'd say, before they become good enough to be able to fly in this sort of formation flying.
It's impossible to do it in an F-18.
No.
Is it as effective as this?
In fact, the Americans have the Blue Angels team, which has FA-18s, and they have a very dynamic show. The roulettes here have this aeroplane, which can actually perform the manoeuvres a lot closer to the crowd, so in terms of that, it's a little more spectacular with the PC-9, but the F-18 is probably a lot noisier.
Yeah, well, we saw that air show during the centenary year at Richmond, which was quite spectacular, Jackie. One of the very, very best. They rated it as good or better than Farnborough. And we saw all types of aircraft there. And but one of the most impressive aerobatics team were the Kiwis with their Arrow Skyhawks. They were sensational.
Yeah, the Kiwis actually modelled their aerobatic display off the American Blue Angels when they used to fly A4s as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of the manoeuvres were very similar.
I had to give these fellows a little bit of a tickle up about their baby blue uniforms they wear for public appearances, and they tell me they get plenty of ribbing about it.
Yeah, they especially do from the fighter pilot community. But, yeah, it's quite illuminating to see them.
I'm really impressed by the amount of attention, head movement that he's got to play to be sure of seeing everything he's required to see. Look at the amount of attention there.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful technology, and Peter Stone is our man who's been able to bring us all these pictures together as we get a little bit of earth, a little bit of sky in the background, and Peter straightens up his aircraft and goes into another manoeuvre. Let's try again. I know they're busy. We take our chances and see if we can talk to Peter Barrett. Peter, Ken Sutcliffe again. Still too busy to have a yarn?
Yes, Ken. I'll call you when I can. Bring up.
Well, there's no mincing words. It might be our television show, but up there in the sky, it's his. Of course, he's just about to rejoin his lads.
Yeah, despite the fact that their capability in the aerobatic manoeuvres here, all these pilots have to be involved in instructional duties as well. So, whereas most international aerobatic teams are full-time aerobatic pilots, these guys have to perform normal RAF instructional duties, and then in their spare time or whatever extra time they have available, they train and perform the air shows. So it's a tremendous effort from these pilots.
Well, we will take a break in the meantime, and back after the break with the roulettes.
But there's a great buzz going on. Although you can compartmentise your mind very well with experience, there's still a little bit of a jitter there.
Well, Leighton House among the first cars to go out and line up in pit lane, ready for a run around the track, get the tyres all nicely warmed up to see how things are going, see if the cars are all set up properly. A little bit of a psyching session, I guess, Jackie.
Well, yes and no. The drivers themselves have already done that. They're now trying to get to be at peace with themselves. And of course, this is now the lap that they go out, they go round. They may go through the pit lane more than once, and just to try and get the car balanced. There may be something that they may wish to have changed. That often happens. And then they'll get onto the grid proper. We're less than 30 minutes away from the beginning of this race, so there's a lot of tension. Also with the mechanics and the personnel, they often get more nervous even than the drivers.
There's the Brabham going out now, young David. Hope he does very well today. He's chasing a ride with them next year, and apparently it's up to him to try and track down $3 million. That's part of the deal, trying to get involved with the team these days.
Well, that's part of the trouble at this time of year. Everybody's looking for money, and it's always difficult to find, particularly with an economic climate that's around the world right now. Look at that in formation, again, in formation of the Benetton twins, if you like. First and second in Japan, would love to be first and second in Australia. They may go the whole distance, incidentally, without changing tyres. That's going to be a battle to see if they can keep their tyres cool. They may not be the front runners at the beginning of the race, but at the end of the race, that's where it counts.
And those colours just don't happen. There's a lot of design work goes into the Benetton colours, and that's why they're such a very successful company in the fashion stakes right around the world. But you can see it's hot here. It would be... Whatever it's out there on the track right now, in that cockpit, you could just about add another 10, 15, 20 degrees.
Oh, yes, and keep in mind they're very heavily dressed for the occasion. I was interested to see that Ayrton Senna was not drawing on thermal underwear. He wears a T-shirt underneath his racing overalls. I would highly recommend that thermal underwear would be to his advantage if fire were to take place. The insulation that thermal underwear gives certainly has a lot to do with protecting you in the case of a fire. But you know, everybody's a little bit worried. You know, this first corner business that they've had recently, this is not an easy first corner here in Adelaide because it's not too long after the start-finishing line, and they all arrive there and try to snake through that S-bend there. There's a gravel pit out there, and there's a wall very close by. So that's the first corner right there, and I've always said, be careful of that first corner. It's likely to cause trouble. Very seldom does the whole field get through there without running over cameras and gravel.
Well, Jackie, you've done a bit of a story on that first corner. Let's take a look at what you had to say with it.
If you've been watching the lead-up to this Australian Grand Prix over the last day or so, you will have seen us speak of safety. We've looked at what the driver wears, his protection personally. We've looked at the tremendous development of the racing car, how it's become a deformable structure and is really a survival cell for race cars. Safety has improved in other areas too, however, on the track. And did it need it? From those early years of the 50s, the 60s, and even the 70s, a lot of things have happened. This is the latest development. It's called a gravel pit, and you could say this should have been around for a long time, but it hasn't. You see this gravel pit sometimes at the end of a runway at an airport to arrest a plane if it's overshot a runway. The idea on a racetrack is when a race car comes into this, it comes across the gravel, and the gravel gets amongst the tyres and really drags the car down into the gravel, slowing it down considerably in a relatively short distance. It saved a lot of lives because it saves the horrific impact that a car would have even to a tyre wall or to a concrete wall. This gravel is certainly a big advantage in the safety field. Another advancement in safety on the track is the concrete wall and the tyre wall. In the old days, it was often a grass bank that was little more than a launching pad for race cars as they came along and hit it. Sometimes putting a race car high in the air, sometimes it wouldn't come down on its all four wheels. A very dangerous set of circumstances. The concrete wall was introduced, and that, of course, is at right angles to the racetrack and helps to very much contain an accident within the racetrack. It's been a big contributor, but a concrete wall is very hard to hit. So what has happened? The rubber tyre was brought in as a tyre wall. Let me show you what happens here if I hit this. Imagine a race car. Look at that. That hammer. The impact is being absorbed by the deformable structure of that tyre. It gives and reduces the impact. If a racing car, on the other hand, were to hit this concrete wall, just look at the shock. Oof. That comes right back up through my arm. A painful experience even with this hammer. Can you imagine what a high-speed race car would do hitting that? So these tyres have really absorbed a great deal of energy. They're chained to the walls and then they're strapped together so that the tyres don't scatter around on impact, because what happened there was occasionally one of them would fly through the air and hit a driver's helmet, and that could cause serious injury. This combination has been a fantastic contribution to safety. I believe sincerely it has saved lives. Death could have come many more times if this had not been introduced. If a driver does slide off the racetrack and collides either with a concrete wall or with a tyre wall, what happens? The deformable structure that we spoke about comes into play. Wheels, suspension pieces, even sometimes engines can fly off. What is this? This is a debris fence. This here is to protect the spectators and the officials alike, because if any solid objects do fly off, this is extremely robust. This would hold in a gearbox or a transmission unit, maybe even an engine, from getting over there to the spectators. It also, incidentally, must protect the marshals, because they've got to be behind these walls. What do they have? A hole in the fence, so that they can, in the case of an emergency, get out there with a fire extinguisher or to be able to help an injured driver to get out of his car. So therefore the debris fence protects the spectators and the officials alike.
And look at that! That is Nigel Mansell!
Space is also a great friend to an accident. This is the slowest corner on the racetrack. But if you were coming down Brabham Straight behind me at in excess of 300 kilometres an hour, as Nigel Mansell was way back in 1986 and had a tyre problem, he needed space. If you had a brake problem coming down here and you ran out of brakes, what would you want? You would want an escape road. You would want a runoff area. You would need space. And this is what was done here in Adelaide. We've extended this racetrack down here until at the end you see that tyre wall. Now, if the deceleration occurred that you would hope, at least even if you hit the tyre wall, you'd be travelling at a slower speed. This is a very important ingredient in safety. Now just let's review one more time what we've seen. If an accident does involve a driver and even fire, he's well protected. His clothing, his thermal underwear, his uniform, his gloves, his socks, his shoes, his balaclava and his helmet, all constantly improved over the years. They're good equipment. His race car, the composite carbon fibre, tremendously strong. He sits in there, tightened down by seat belts, with fire extinguishers all around him, and he's in almost a survival cell. And if the car hits a concrete wall or a tyre wall, it disintegrates into a deformable structure. And then the debris fence collects those bits and pieces and hopefully protects our spectators. Safety has come a long way. If I look back in my career and there's anything I might be proud of, it won't probably be my 3 World Championships or my 27 Grand Prix victories. If I leave a legacy for motorsport, it will be my contribution to safety. Because in the mid-60s, I started a campaign off, which has ended up today to be a very strong element of safety. Very few drivers, as I said a couple of days ago, are dying in their cockpits nowadays. But you can never be complacent. Although we've done a lot in those years to make it safer, you can't sit still. Motor racing will never be safe, but it can always be made safer, and we should always be in that search for improvement.
Well, Jackie, you can't argue with logic, and that was all logic, talking about safety. I know you've always had a passion about it, and you're right, it can never be completely safe. It's something that, if it was completely safe, maybe it wouldn't be the sport that it is.
No, I'm sure it wouldn't. There is an element of danger, and people love that. But I think those people like Gerhard Berger, who we're looking at right now, warming up for this Grand Prix, are paid for their skill, not for the risks they take. And those risks should not be unreasonable. Unnecessary hazards should not be there. We make enough mistakes ourselves. There are heavy concrete walls to collide with. The penalties are very big if we do make mistakes, and they hurt. But my goodness, has it improved? And he's holding on to something. There's something flapping around his car there. I don't know what that was. Something attached to the left-hand side of his cockpit. It looked like a piece of string.
And another F-18 goes by. Beautiful looking aircraft, just absolute brute power. Mel, what sort of power are we looking at here?
We've got a total of 32,000 pounds of thrust, which actually equates to about the same horsepower as what's on the starting grid here today.
Whoa, okay, well that's enough said. We'll be back right after the break. Back live in Adelaide, that's the scene down pit lane. The cars are out on the grid, and so are thousands of spectators. This is their last chance obviously before the race is over anyway, to touch the rich and the famous and to get a close-up view, Jackie, of the motor car. Well, as a driver, did you like this part of it where the public were really, you were hemmed in?
Well, by now I was very insulated within my own mind, but incidentally, that's not so much the public, but the very privileged. There's only a few people, really. It looks like an army down there, but these are very hard to find credentials to get onto that starting grid.
Well, Barry Sheen is down there in amongst all that throng, and he's talking to Nigel Mansell.
Yeah, hello, Jackie. Well, he's very occupied at the moment. He's always with either a lady or a policeman.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
How you doing then, Nigel?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Every time I see you, Barry, I can't do bad, can I?
What's going to be the biggest problem in the race today? What's the weather going to do to you?
We're going to dehydrate pretty quick. We're pre-hydrating now, and I reckon we could lose up to about 10 pounds in weight today. We haven't got a drink bottle on board because it's so bumpy here that we'll probably spill most of it trying to drink. We've just found out that McLaren have changed their tyres to the C compound, which is the harder compound now, because it's so hot. We're still on the D compound tyres, which are a little bit softer, but they might go away later in the race. So it's going to be a tough race, but it's going to be an exciting one.
So almost certainly then you're going to have to make a pit stop for tyres.
Maybe, maybe not. It just depends how the race is run. But I mean, a lot of cars are going to have problems, gearbox problems. I just hope that, you know, we don't have any mechanical problems and we can have a good race to finish on.
All right, I'll let you get back to your lovely friend there, Nigel. Okay, back to you, Ken and Jackie.
Barry, who needs friends like Barry Sheen? And here's Gerhard Berger. And the F111 is about to make another swoop, 3 of them this time. Mel, talk us through this.
We have F111s have actually flown down from Amberley today, part of our bomber force up there. What they're going to be doing here is a fly past, and they're going to do the classic dump and burn. With 3 ship of aircraft, that's generally quite spectacular.
What is dump and burn?
What they do there is they have a fuel dump out the back of the aeroplane between the engines, and they open that tap and then light the afterburner, and the flame from the afterburner then lights the fuel that's being ejected out the back of the aeroplane.
How much fuel are we talking about?
I couldn't tell you that, Ken. Not an expert on the F111. Being a fighter pilot, there's a lot of friendly rivalry between the two groups, but these guys are experienced pilots as well. But we try and keep our peace with them, but they're targets to us.
Look at that.
You can feel on the ground here very, very dynamic and vibrant shaking of the ground as they roared over.
They are like flying bricks. They're just brute force, aren't they?
That's correct. Yeah, that's an ugly aeroplane for us in the fighter world, but very, very capable in the role that they're designed for.
And, you know, getting on in years, but still very, very advanced. The electronics keep on being upgraded all the time, don't they?
Yeah, ergonomically, they're reasonably old, but they're getting some very new systems that make their capability extraordinary.
I must say, that spectacular flame coming out with the afterburner, that is impressive.
Yeah, I'll say, and it didn't shake the studio. It was just, as we said, brute force flying there, big engines keeping it up there in the air, and they're the twin seats, aren't they, the F111s, aren't they?
Yeah, that's correct, Ken.
Yeah. What, you got a flight engineer and a pilot?
No, we have one pilot in the left seat, then a navigator in the right-hand seat, and he operates all the weapon systems and the radar.
More action down in the pits. Thank you, Mel, for that, talking us through the F111s. But now we switch our attention, of course, to the F1s and what our telecast is all about here this weekend. Beautiful shots down on the pit lane, lots and lots of colour. It's a very warm day. We've said that before. Everyone's pretty well covered up, dressed accordingly for something that will be very, very good. It's a Grand Prix that matters to all the drivers, and we look forward to plenty of action right after the break.
Sponsored by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? Amstrad Generation 3. It's a business out there. Ava Super Saver. The longer you rent, the cheaper it gets. Nissan. That's my car. Carlton and United Breweries. Coca-Cola. You can't beat the feeling in Adelaide. And General Motors Holdens.
wide world of sports welcomes the world to Adelaide, a city of grace and charm, and the doorway to one of the world's finest wine-growing areas. But today, that tranquility is shattered by the snarl of Formula One. For this is the Australian Grand Prix, the 500th of the modern era on the most respected street circuit in the world. Will it be an Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost grudge match? Either way, we have the best seats in the house, in the air, on the ground, behind the wheel, determined to have you in a spin. Already in 2 days of practice, the circuit has shown it will only tolerate the mistake-free. Those who exceed the limit pay a price. The distance is 309 kilometres. Average lap speed will be in excess of 165 kilometres an hour. It will be a red-hot day of racing action on the best show in town, the 1990 Adelaide Grand Prix. And to fit you right into the picture, let's join Nigel Mansell for a guided tour of the 3.5 kilometre circuit.
Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and you probably hear the limiter now, and you're having to brake a little hard down to fourth through here, trying to stay off the curbs. You can see the car jumping around up to fifth, sixth, probably now about 260, braking hard down to third, right-hander, very bumpy through here. You can see the hands and the arms working. Round the left-hander again, very bumpy, bit of oversteer coming out, correction, round the right-hander, up through the gearbox now, third, fourth, fifth, and going through here as quick as you possibly can. Not too much oversteer, staying off the curbs, down to third, through the flick, right, third, fourth, fifth, and keeping it in fifth so you hit the limiter, and then getting set up for this fastest corner to the straight. Over the curb, bouncing down, sixth, seventh, and now the fastest part of the circuit here, up to almost 200 miles an hour. Braking, if you look at the meter boards on the left, you're not braking until 150 metres. Down to second gear, not overcorrecting, powering out, wheel spin, up to third, hitting the limiter again, coming into the tight left-hander, over the curb a bit more grip there, fourth, fifth, sixth, and now just concentrating very hard on the last corner, making sure you don't overshoot it. Down to second, through there, powering out, up to third, fourth, fifth, sixth, across the line, and hopefully the quickest lap.
All set for the 500th World Championship Formula One race here in the gloriously sunny 34-degree heat of Adelaide for the Australian Grand Prix. And up front on the starting grid, where they should be, the world's 4 top drivers, all of them with a fiercely motivating personal objective. And a special hello from everybody here to Martin Donnelly, who we know is watching the Australian Grand Prix from his hospital bed in London. Well, all the 4 top men have got that objective. The championship may have been decided, but following a lot of media criticism after the Japanese Grand Prix first corner collision, Ayrton Senna means to underline his worthiness as world champion by winning. Alain Prost, though, intends to show that he's the better man. Nigel Mansell wants to win his last race in a Ferrari, and Gerhard Berger wants to win for the first time in a McLaren. And so there is the starting grid. 26 of the world's top drivers out here for the last race in the World Championship, where you see Alesi in 5th position, and then Nelson Piquet 7th, his teammate Roberto Moreno an excellent 9th. Thierry Boutsen is in 9th position, and Martini is in 10th place. Then the Japanese driver, Satoru Nakajima. Andrea De Cesaris from Italy in the Dallara is 15th. Stefano Modena is 17th. Johnny Herbert in his 2nd Grand Prix on his comeback is in 18th position. Pirot is 21st. Olivier Griard behind him. And coming up, you will see the very welcome name of David Brabham, the 2nd Australian to drive in the Australian Grand Prix. The first one, of course, being Alan Jones. And of course, there is an enormous crowd here. Ayrton Senna there in pole position for the 52nd time. He gave an impassioned media meeting talk on Thursday, about his views on the Japanese Grand Prix first corner collision. And he seems very relaxed and cheerful. Gerhard Berger there, yet to win for McLaren. And the fact that Berger is just behind Senna on the front row of the grid is very good news for Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger, that pipe is to his drinks bottle, and they're going to need it in this race. Although Nigel Mansell has just been speaking to us and said he's not going to use one. There he is. Nigel, very, very cheerful here. He's been playing golf and thoroughly relaxing. Third position on the grid. There's his Australian mascot. Alain Prost was extremely wound up. He stormed out of the driver's briefing this morning after Ron Dennis, the McLaren chief, had made a remark to which Alain apparently objected. And Alain Prost has been reprimanded by the stewards. The track temperature, incidentally, is 47 degrees. That's Jean Alesi, 2 second places on the street circuits this year, Phoenix and Monaco, and he is in an excellent 5th position on the grid in his Tyrrell Ford, using Pirelli tyres. Most of the other runners are using Goodyears, so Alesi may or may not have an advantage, and that is Riccardo Patrese, who's put up the fastest lap in the last 3 Grand Prix, plus Hungary. He's put up more fastest laps this season than anyone else. He is driving, as ever, a Williams-Renault V10 engine and will be accompanying Nigel Mansell next year. The Japanese Grand Prix winner, Nelson Piquet, 21 Grand Prix victories to his credit. He's right back in form, the second highest point scorer in the World Championship of all time, second only to Alain Prost. And the next picture you see is Roberto Moreno, the cheerful little Brazilian who drove so brilliantly in Japan to finish second in his first Grand Prix in a car that was worthy of his talent. And he's in 8th position on the grid here in Australia. I've just been talking to him, and he too is very cheerful. Thierry Boutsen there, the man who won the Australian Grand Prix last year in the appallingly wet conditions. Not all that happy, actually. He's had some handling problems with his Williams-Renault. It's the last race he's driving for the Williams team before he moves to Ligier next year. There's a lot of lasts here in Australia. For instance, Mansell's driving his last race for Ferrari. Pierluigi Martini, though, is going to be continuing with the Minardi team next year. He's in 10th position on the grid. Next year he will have a Ferrari engine behind him. And there's Britain's hero with Nigel Mansell, Derek Warwick, driving in his last Grand Prix for Lotus, and sadly maybe his last Grand Prix ever, because he's going to be driving in the Jaguar sports car team next year. Well, this is going to be a very long, hard and grueling race. It's going to last nearly 2 hours. And that, by the way, is Nicola Larini in 12th position, who has driven the 5th most racing miles in Grand Prix this year, showing he's got a very reliable car. You know that the track day temperature is 47 degrees, and I think it's going to get hotter as the heat soak of the tarmac starts to show up. So, 87 laps, 190.3 miles. It's going to be a tough one.
It certainly is. Temperature is a hotter race than we've had for a very long time. Brakes are always a problem on street circuits, particularly here at Adelaide, because it's quite fast and there's some very heavy braking from the couple of quick points on the circuit. And even the mighty McLaren team were in a certain amount of brake trouble yesterday. They had a bit of a problem with brake ducts cracking this morning, but hopefully they beefed those up. Now, the story of today is the continuing, well, I think really it's a Prost saga, and that Murray referred to earlier, and that is that at the driver's briefing this morning, Ron Dennis asked a perfectly reasonable question in that for a clarification on what happens at the first chicane, because there is an opportunity for people who want to be very agricultural to take a bit of a shortcut and straighten out the second apex at the first corner, at the first chicane. And he asked whether that was legal to do that, And the reply from Fiza was rather a good one, in that, well, if you do that much, you're going to damage your car, aren't you? At which point, Prost just got up and walked out of the meeting, for which he received the yellow card from Fiza, but no fine, which was surprised a lot of people, because other people get fined for that. And he then refused to be in the 500th Grand Prix, all 26 drivers in it, photograph, and said, I don't want to be part of that group. And it was generally felt that if anybody else had said that, they'd say, well, fine, then you're not in the group that's going to be in the race. But he's in the race, and his behaviour certainly is of a man under a bit of mental collapse, courtesy of the beating that's been handed out to him by Ayrton Senna. And he's whinging and moaning and blaming everybody else but himself for him not winning the World Championship. And we've seen in the last 4 races or so that the only person who stopped Alain Prost being in a position to win the World Championship is Alain Prost. Now, coming round to the start line, watching from Prost's Ferrari onto the second row of the grid, and there'll be a little bit of a wait now while all the cars behind him come onto their positions, and then the green flag from the back when everybody is stopped and in their place.
So watch the top of your pictures and the back of the grid, and then of course watch the front, because this first corner is going to be just as critical in Australia as it was in Japan and everywhere else. On the right, in pole position, is Ayrton Senna. On the left, second on the grid, is Gerhard Berger. Behind Senna is Mansell, behind Berger is Prost, and behind Mansell is Alesi, behind Prost is Patrese. Watch the lights. The green flag waves at the back. Australia is go, and Prost leaps out from behind, tucks in behind Mansell, who comes up alongside Gerhard Berger. Senna leads, Berger second, Mansell third, Prost fourth, Piquet fifth, Patrese sixth, Boutsen seventh. Moreno is in 8th position, Derek Warwick is 9th, and already there is a gap developing between Ayrton Senna sprinting away from his teammate Gerhard Berger, Mansell, Prost, Piquet.
Yes, and Piquet charging well. He got inside Jean Alesi into turn 2. And that's good news to see Nelson Piquet out there looking as if he really means business. So the front 2 rows have got away pretty much in formation. Prost was a bit unfortunate there at the start. He made a particularly good one. Berger was slow away, and as Prost darted out behind him, then there was nowhere to go. Now look, Prost first to move, but nowhere to go. Mansell moved well, but Berger really screwed him up, and Prost probably made the best start of all, but the narrow track precluded him. The rest all fought their way through.
And Ayrton Senna leads as he means to stay in the front the whole race. It's going to be a very long, hard race. You can see that he's already got quite a comfortable tarmac cushion between himself and Gerhard Berger. And Senna's plan, as ever, as they come through to complete the first lap, will be to build a time and distance cushion between himself and the rest of the field so that he can control the race from the front. Already, after 1 lap, Senna leads by 1.7 seconds, and that's a big margin. But you can see that Nigel Mansell is starting to close in 3rd position. There he is on Gerhard Berger, and he's going for it. Mansell going for 2nd.
Berger got a problem there. I think it may have been a missed gear. Let's see. Yes, he now seems to be back with proper power. But it may be that Berger's got a problem. Mansell into 2nd place, and he's got work to do now because Senna's got quite a nice handy lead. Now, Prost will be very anxious that Berger has the same problem again. It's a lot easier to pass him that way.
And Berger's holding him up. Prost is tucked up underneath his rear wing. Mansell is the challenge for Senna, and we are on the 2nd lap. Senna leads. Mansell is getting closer as he did to Berger, who is down the field. Now, look, here it is. There is Berger, 3rd. Prost, 4th. Piquet right behind the Ferrari in 5th position. And we're riding with Nigel Mansell now. And that is Ayrton Senna in the Ferrari, the world champion of 1990 in front of Nigel Mansell.
Prost and Berger here. You see Mansell ahead. Tremendous picture, this. Really good view of the back of Berger's car as Alain Prost sees it. And you watch as they go out of the corner with McLaren gets on the power first, and then he streaks away. A tremendous acceleration of these cars, and of course closing up again under braking. and you can see just how bumpy it is in these cars. It's not a particularly bumpy surface if we drove our road cars around it, but these cars are very hard and stiff, and they're going an awful lot quicker. They really shake you around. So Piquet pressing two behind Alain Prost, and already a bit of a battle developing for third place as Senna and Mansell have a chance out front to settle down into some sort of a rhythm, as they're a little bit on their own at the moment.
Lap 3, race order. Senna leads, Mansell second, Berger third, Prost is fourth, and there is Prost with Nelson Piquet right behind him. And Nelson Piquet's car was fastest down the straight this morning. In sixth position is Patrese, Alesi is down in seventh, Boutsen is eighth, Moreno is ninth, and there you saw the Ferrari running wide, but it's Berger still there, and Piquet is ahead of Alain Prost. So the Brazilian has passed the French world champion, and can he do anything about Gerhard Berger? Senna still leads, Mansell second.
And I'm really pleased to see what looks like a really business-like drive from Nelson Piquet. And I have to say, could this be anything to do with Roberto Moreno coming into the team? Very talented young Brazilian, and he's pushed him in qualifying. He pushed him and then supported him extremely well at Suzuka 2 weeks ago. And maybe this is the little stimulus that Piquet needs to show us what real talent he has got.
We are on lap 4 of this 81 race, one-lap race, and Ayrton Senna leads Nigel Mansell by 2.07 seconds. Mansell actually the fastest man on the course on the previous lap, just 0.3 of a second faster than Senna. There's Berger third. See the gap that's developing between Mansell and Berger. Piquet is in fourth position. He's got a gap between himself and Alain Prost, who is in fifth position. Then it's Riccardo Patrese. Now this is racetrack hairpin at the end of the Brabham Straight, and Piquet is really starting to challenge Gerhard Berger in third position. And that's Derek Warwick going well, followed by Ivan Capelli, who is 11th. Pierluigi Martini is 12th, and Johnny Herbert goes through and passes the Brabham of Stefano Modena. Here comes Senna, completing the lap.
And Mansell looks definitely closer to me. And certainly is new fastest lap of the race for Nigel Mansell. He's only chipping away at the lead, but it's now under 2 seconds, 1.8 seconds. Nigel Mansell trails Senna and is definitely catching him slowly, gently. And we could expect this. The good news potentially for the race was that the top 4 or 5 cars in the warm-up this morning, the Ferraris and McLarens, were very, very close in their times, in their race setup. And we don't expect it to be easy for anybody to get away. Prost is being pushed down a little. Piquet is really charging.
Lap record is held by Gerhard Berger, 1987 in the Turbo Ferrari, 1 minute 20.4. Fastest lap so far, Nigel Mansell, 1 minute 22.02. But of course, they've still got virtually full petrol tanks, and Berger is being harried every inch of the way by the Japanese Grand Prix winner, Nelson Piquet, in the multi-coloured Benetton. You can see now, as they go round the left-hander there, the gap behind Piquet to Alain Prost in 5th position. And Prost is definitely, it seems to me, an unhappy man. Now we are on lap 6, and Senna has marginally pulled away from Nigel Mansell. The gap is back to 2 seconds again. But I am very interested in this Benetton situation. The Benetton team, with the support of Ford, with their V8 engine, have honed the package all through the season. They got their award in Japan when the top 4 men fell out, and Nelson Piquet finished first, and Moreno, his teammate, finished in 2nd place. Nelson Piquet has really got his old fire back again. The world champion of 1981, 1983 and 1987.
Yes, it's good to see, but one has to say it's not before time, and one must point out that Japan was very much an inherited win. They were blown off the pace by the top runners. First, well, we lost Prost and Senna at the first corner, but Mansell took up the cudgels and was disappearing into the distance, leading by a long way. and inherited the win. But if that's what it's needed to get them geared up, because the car has been very good all season, and that was Roberto Moreno going through, Derek Warwick chasing, and I think Moreno, after all, he's a Brazilian, he's young, and he's a real threat to Piquet, and maybe this has helped get Piquet's act into gear. Senna keeping it smooth, and Senna, new fastest lap for him, 21.5. The times are beginning to come down, and Mansell, the gap now just over 2 seconds, so they're pretty constant at the moment. It's just going up and down to either side of a couple of seconds, and I'm sure at this stage of the race Mansell will be quite satisfied with that situation. He doesn't really need to challenge Senna yet. This is going to be a race of attrition. He's got brakes to look after, he's got the whole car really with these high curves to look after, and if he wants to do some real charging, there's plenty of time later to make his attacks. So now, fastest part of the circuit, going up to just got into 7th gear, and reaching nearly 200 miles an hour, about over 190 on the straight, and now on the brakes.
You see Ayrton Senna turn in to racetrack hairpin. Now he will bear left round the 160 kilometres an hour padded turn. We're with Mansell. That is Senna ahead. The gap is about 2 seconds. It's up to 190 k's here, 240, then down through the gears, hard for the right-hander at Foster's hairpin.
We're back live at Adelaide for the Australian Grand Prix. After 9 laps, Ayrton Senna leads. Nigel Mansell's in 2nd place. Gerhard Berger's in 3rd, being threatened by Nelson Piquet. And you see an attempted pass coming through there, and he's achieved it. So Nelson Piquet puts himself up into 3rd position. A great move for the man who won the Grand Prix in Japan. Now back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Yes, indeed, on lap 9, Nelson Piquet moves up into 4th position, up into 3rd position of Gerhard Berger. Ayrton Senna leads, Nigel Mansell is 2nd, only 1.8 seconds behind him. Nelson Piquet is now in 3rd position, and there is the replay you see on the right-hander there at the end of the long straight. I can tell you that McLaren had brake trouble in the warm-up period this morning, whereas the Benetton people are absolutely delighted with their car's braking ability. So Nelson Piquet charging hard, and he's lapping 121.6, which is faster than Senna, faster than Mansell, and of course faster than Gerhard Berger and Alain Prost behind him. So Nelson Piquet is the fastest man on the circuit now. And he is not only the fastest man on the circuit, he is the oldest man on the circuit. The enormous amount of experience. Nelson Piquet, 21 Grand Prix victories behind him. It is 187th Grand Prix, and there he goes. 3rd, Berger 4th, Prost 5th. Patrese in 6th position. Coming towards us now is Jean Alesi, who is 7th, followed by Thierry Boutsen, who is 8th. And look at this. There is Ayrton Senna, and Mansell right behind him, and he's a lot closer. The gap is down to only just over half a second as they go into lap 11. Mansell is charging.
Yes, and that was a very slow lap, funny enough, from Ayrton Senna. He came back to Mansell. He was a second slower than he has been lapping, and I have to confess I didn't see where the mistake came. But Mansell now very much on Senna's tail. And now Mansell now has to make a decision. Does he want to try and attack now, or is he going to content himself with playing a bit of a waiting game? I personally, in his position, would be satisfied to just follow for the time being. There is no hurry unless Piquet starts to close on them. If Piquet starts to close, then Mansell has to act. But if Piquet is not closing that gap, he can just stalk Senna and let Senna do the work.
Well, this is Nigel's last race for Ferrari. He is making the most of it so far. Lap 11 in this 81-lap race. Ayrton Senna has 6 Grand Prix victories behind him in 1990. Nigel Mansell has just the one in Portugal. And if you remember, he sprinted away from the start. blocked his teammate Alain Prost accidentally, but went on to win. That was his sole victory. And Nigel Mansell this year in the Ferrari has retired no less than 9 times. Look at the heat haze. I have never seen Nigel Mansell more cheerful, more ebullient, more outgoing than he has been in Australia, and it's certainly showing on the racetrack.
Yes, and the gap back from Mansell to Piquet is fairly constant, but the lap times now, as expected, are starting to go up rather than down as the heat really gets to the tyres. And all the leading group are now back lapping over 1 minute 22. They were down to fairly low 21s just briefly. And the tyres now will probably stabilise at this sort of level of grip. Tremendous view from Mansell's car. You see how the McLaren just pulls away from the far end of the straight. Mansell going out for clean air to have a look at the braking point. In closes right up on the braking. Now watch the McLaren power away. And then the closing up comes under braking. Now quite slowish left-hander, then a couple of quick flicks. The left, quick right, and hard onto the brakes. Now, see the flame popping from the Ferrari exhaust there as Mansell gets onto the brakes. And Senna powering away. Now I'm watching the lap times pretty closely. Because certainly, yes, and really they've, the tyres now seem to have levelled off in performance. And Piquet is lapping marginally quicker than the leaders. He has reduced that gap. He's now some 3.6 seconds behind Mansell. He's just edging closer slowly towards the leading pair. And behind him, Berger is dropping back, and Prost is starting to stalk Berger.
And the race order on lap 13 is Ayrton Senna 1 second ahead of Nigel Mansell, second. Piquet is third. Berger, there he is fourth. Prost behind him is in 5th position. Riccardo Patrese 2 seconds behind Prost in 6th place. Jean Alesi is 7th. Boutsen is in 8th position. 9th is Moreno. 10th is Warwick. 11th Capelli. And in 12th place, Nicola Larini. Here they come, streaming down the Jack Brabham straight towards us. 3rd position, Piquet. 4th, Berger in the McLaren. Gerhard Berger's race isn't turning out any better for him than Prost's race is for the world champion so far. Because Prost is the world champion, don't forget, until after this race has been concluded. And look at the gap now between Nelson Piquet leading and Berger. Sorry, Nelson Piquet in 3rd position and Berger behind him. And still Senna leads Mansell by 1 gap, 1 second. They are almost identical in lap times, 1:21.83, 1:21.81. And Nelson Piquet's just gone round in 1:21.6. Piquet is lapping faster than the 2 men ahead of him. He's catching slowly.
Yes, he's inching towards them, and Berger is staying very well with Piquet, in fact, but behind them, Prost at last seems to be starting to wake up. He's just put up his fastest lap of the race so far, and he's now holding Berger. He's not actually mounting any apparent attack at the moment, but he is stalking him pretty closely and appears at last, as I say, to be getting his act together. But he's got a lot of work to do to get anywhere near Senna. He's got 4 cars between himself and Ayrton Senna.
Thus far, only 1 retirement. Last year, only 8 finished. And last year, of course, it was flood conditions almost. It was so wet. But 8 is about par for the course for the end of the Australian Grand Prix. So tough and demanding is this circuit. And that is compounded today by the heat. Nigel Mansell is back again under a second behind Ayrton Senna. He's just made the fastest lap of the race, 1:21.553. And that's just a second outside Berger's 87 lap record.
Yes, and Berger superseded that. He is the new fastest lap from Berger, only about 2 seconds after Mansell crossed the line while you were reading that off, Murray. And Berger just pipped it by another couple of thousandths. And so the race is speeding up. These tyres seem to have settled where, with the fuel load coming down, race speeding up a little bit. And I'm glad to say what this means is that the feared serious tyre problems in this race are not, looks as if they're not going to happen. Everybody seems to be settled all right, and Mansell really close to Senna again. Now, Mansell will be aware that Piquet is staying with them, as a result of which I would think Mansell may now be contemplating getting stuck in to trying to pass Senna.
I wonder, James, if the fact that we know McLaren have had some brake problems and Ferrari seem to be happy is starting to show up already in the race on lap 15 out of 81.
I don't think so, Murray. Well, I'll look carefully for that, because basically on the brake problem that McLaren had, I think they needed a bit more ducting yesterday. Well, Senna's just now posted the fastest lap of the race so far himself, so he has responded and he's pulled a little bit away from Mansell. So the battle seems to be hotting up at the front. There's the caption. And on going back to the McLaren brake problem, I think they were running a little bit hot yesterday. Nothing serious. They upped overnight the ducting onto their front brakes. By making them bigger, of course, they got more air into it, and they weren't strong enough. They cracked brake ducts this morning. They beefed them up, and they were reasonably confident that all would be well before the race. And certainly, one has to say, and Terry Boutsen has superseded the fastest lap, and that's David Brabham. We're watching for David Brabham in making his debut in an Australian Grand Prix, just being lapped by Ayrton Senna. And he had to fight hard to qualify. David Brabham did well to qualify, but it's going to be a hard learning day for him.
And now you're seeing what could be a problem for all the drivers, rather less of a problem for Ayrton Senna, but they're coming up to lap tail enders. Senna has got Gabriele Tarquini in the AGS in front of him, and Tarquini has got in front of him Olivier Griard, who is a notorious blocker. There he is. Olivier Griard, Tarquini, and there's Nigel Mansell. Now, where is Senna? I saw a car flash past, but it's Senna still ahead. Senna's got ahead of the other two. Now Mansell has to.
I think Senna split them, yeah. He's split them. He hasn't managed Tarquini yet. But one thing Griard, I mean, he got Tarquini there, and Senna is through. But the one thing that a driver really hates when he's coming up to lap back markers is the horrible sight of two back markers having their own personal battle, because they don't look in their mirrors when they're busy fighting with each other. Now, they certainly should, because they've been warned that the leaders, because Senna's already shown them that the leaders are around. But let's see, and of course the straight line speed of the Ferrari, Mansell hopes will carry him past Griard. Will it, will it, will it? He's going to have to be brave on the brakes, and he did it, yes. Well, Mansell, it was not really a contest, and he'll be happy that he was able to make it past them on the straight. That's, of course, the easiest place to do your passing.
Ding dong, you saw some real Grand Prix driving there. First of all, Senna, then Nigel Mansell. Boom, boom, past the two in front of them. And now we're coming up to the end of the lap. Senna is approaching the line, now over. And Nigel Mansell is now over. And the gap, which was 2.27, has gone up to 2.7 because Nigel Mansell had more trouble getting past Griard and Tarquini than Senna did. And that is not at all unusual. In fact, it is totally usual. Senna is an amazing man for getting through the field. And now, on lap 18, Senna leads Mansell by 2.7 seconds. Mansell is 2.4 seconds ahead of Piquet. Piquet leads Berger, who is fourth, by 1.2 seconds. Prost is fifth, 6/10 of a second behind Berger. Prost is catching Berger. Patrese is sixth, Alesi is seventh, Boutsen is eighth, Moreno is ninth, Warwick is 10th, Capelli is 11th, and Larini is 12th, as you watch Nigel Mansell, V12 Ferrari.
And Mansell's looking good now on a clear lap. He seems to be catching some of the ground he lost to Senna, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new fastest lap at the end of this one from Nigel Mansell. And Terry Boutsen currently has done the fastest lap just a couple of laps ago. He's back in 8th place. The leaders, of course, lost the last couple of laps messing around with the slower traffic. And we get a tremendous view the way the onboard cameras have been improved over the years. And now it really does look quite like through the camera eye, pretty much like it does from the car. The only thing, of course, is you're not being cement mixed at 200 miles an hour. You can just see how much it's being shaken. But believe you me, yes, and I was right. New fastest lap for Mansell. Yes, he was clearly really throwing it round that lap and closing on Senna. So, tremendous view from Mansell's car. It's a little bit elongated, of course, through the relatively wide-angle lens. Looking, you know, if one herself was in the car, it lengthens rather than shortens.
Now we are 19 laps into the Australian Grand Prix, and Senna laps Morbidelli in the Minardi, the young Italian, youngest driver in the race, 22 years old. Now Mansell, and I think actually Mansell has benefited this time. We'll soon know, because they're coming up to the end of the lap. And at the end of lap 18, the gap between Senna leading and Mansell second was 1.9 seconds, thanks to Nigel Mansell's fastest lap of the race. And my goodness, it looks less than that to me now. They're coming up to cross the line, they do so, and the gap between Senna and Mansell has come down to 1.5 seconds. 0.4 of a second may not sound very much, but at racing speeds, with cars and drivers whose performances are as close as these two, it is a lot. And Piquet is still third, Berger is still fourth, Prost is still fifth, Patrese is still sixth. Then it's Alesi and Boutsen, but this is the battle, Senna versus Mansell.
Yes, and what a battle we've had so far, and quite honestly, it looks to me as if this battle is going to continue, because Mansell looks to be the fastest man on the circuit, but only marginally from Senna, and not fast enough by enough to make it anyway, and onto the curb with Initiate. And that was a bad mistake. He put it on the curb for no good reason, and look what happened.
And it happened to Nicola Larini, who was proudly saying yesterday that he had driven more racing miles in Grand Prix of 1990 than everybody else except 4 people, the 5th most. And here it is, look, watch him leap the curb, up in the air, crunch.
But he started it all as he lined up for the corner by putting his left-hand wheels on the curb at the entry to the corner, and that was where he lost control there, very slippery, and that was an awfully bad mistake, because it's a guaranteed accident if you do that. So Mansell closer yet.
Not only that, but Senna's got another couple of tail-enders in front of him.
We're back live in Adelaide, and there is loads of action. Since we've been away on our commercial break, Nigel Mansell has closed up severely on Ayrton Senna. Another incident involved David Brabham in one of the Williams cars. Patrese had a little problem, but look here, David Brabham loses the car in the entrance to the first corner, goes over the curb. It seems that he stalled the engine. It looks very much to me like he stalled the engine. And here is Riccardo Patrese losing it also going into the first corner. Speculation would suggest that there may have been a little oil down there as 2 cars did that. But look at Nigel Mansell now attempting to get through at the end. Oh, and he's a bit wide. He lost a little bit of time there, but Nigel Mansell certainly in contention for this Australian Grand Prix. Let's go back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
And Mansell is now really starting to look for a way past Ayrton Senna. His tactics are absolutely correct. They're in amongst the traffic, and this is the time to press, because he needs, look at, with that acceleration that you see there, with the way the McLaren goes away from him out of each corner, and stretches it until they get on the brakes, from which point he's too far behind. He needs the help of the back marker.
Well, in Italy, they call Nigel Mansell Il Leone, and you can see why, the lion. Lion-hearted, and he's going for it, but let us not forget that Ayrton Senna is too resisting enormous pressure, once again demonstrating his superb tactical skill, judging his moments to get past, hopefully in such a way that he can interpose the man he has just passed between himself and Nigel Mansell, and thereby make the Englishman's job more difficult. Coming up to the end of the lap, over the line goes Ayrton Senna. We're into lap 24, the gap which was 0.7 seconds comes down, well, goes up actually to 0.9, but really it's irrelevant, because Mansell is as near as makes no difference with Senna. His problem is going to be getting past.
Yes, and this raging battle for the lead has pulled them some 7 seconds clear of Nelson Piquet. That gap, that 9 you see on the caption, is the gap to Ayrton Senna. And they're edging away from Piquet. But I'm pretty confident that one thing Mansell should be not bargaining to get is a mistake from Ayrton Senna. He's just won the championship, and that does two things. It reduces the pressure, ups the confidence, and makes you really enjoy your driving. Senna has already said this weekend how much he's enjoying himself, and I think he's driving better than ever. He was quite sensational in qualifying with his dominance and his confidence. And, of course, he's a master of qualifying. I think that the Ferrari is working better in race trim, but Mansell is not going to get off at a mistake by Senna unless Senna can get a tangle and a confusion caused by a back marker, because Senna knows with the power of his engine, and as long as he keeps it straight through the corners and then powers it, there's nothing Mansell can do. Mansell will not be able to pass him, so he doesn't have to hurry. There's no pressure on Senna except when they get amongst the traffic. Then he's under pressure.
And to underline that, the gap has increased to 1.2 seconds between Senna and Mansell. But now Prost is charging hard. He's lapping in 1:22.5, but Berger was marginally quicker than him. And it's still Piquet 8 seconds behind Mansell, 3.8 seconds ahead of Berger, who is 4th. And Berger is 2 seconds ahead of Prost, or was, and that's one of the Dallaras retiring, and it looked like, indeed, it was Andrea de Cesaris. So now we have 3 retirements, and we're on lap 25 out of 81. They are Aguri Suzuki in the Lola LaRousse, as you watch Senna and Mansell. David Brabham, sadly, has gone out of his own Grand Prix on lap 19, and there was the 3rd retirement you just heard. Now, Senna. Down to the end of now, they're catching another Ligier. It is that of Nicola Larini, the man that we saw go over the curb and land on all 4 wheels. He's got back on the circuit. And as Senna goes through the S's and then on his way up to the right-hander at Wakefield Turn, followed by Nigel Mansell, there he is. It's 1.1 seconds, so Mansell's charging again. 1 minute 20.7, he's faster than Senna at the moment. That's the fastest lap. 168.5 Ks, 104.7 miles an hour for Nigel Mansell, who, by doing that, moves up to Ayrton Senna, but not enough. He's got to be tucked right under the rear wing of the Brazilian's McLaren Honda before he's going to have a chance of pulling out. And even then, it would only be if Senna made a mistake, and you can see the gap yourself. You're with Mansell.
Yes, now there is a back marker in front of Senna, and that's really what Mansell's got to wait for, because the problem is you must conserve energy in these cars, and it's a tremendous... It ups the physical output. Driving in less than a second behind the car in front means your car slides more, which means you've got to put much more physical work into controlling it. Your line of vision is much impaired by the big rear wing of the car in front, so your concentration and your brain work is upped dramatically, and you cannot sustain this for the length of a race. So Mansell is going to have to try and gear his attacks for when he sees a gaggle of back markers and get in close then, but really he cannot do this for the whole race. He's got to be able to move backwards and forwards, and yes, another new fastest lap for Nigel Mansell, and he's got the gap down under a second, and this is where he needs to be, but I see no back markers in sight at the moment. They won't be far away, and it's a problem. The bad news for Mansell is if Senna picks them off one at a time. There's one. They'll catch that within a lap. So Mansell again has to get himself into position just in case he causes that split-second confusion that can make Senna have to hesitate, and that's what Mansell has got to pray for, because that's going to be his best chance of passing. I don't think he can rely on a mistake from Senna.
Meantime, Satoru Nakajima has been into the pits with his Tyrrell Ford. Now Mansell will close up again. The gap is back to about half a second. 1 minute 20.611, the fastest lap by Nigel Mansell, and it's still Piquet 3rd, Berger 4th, Prost 5th, Boutsen 6th, Moreno 7th, Warwick 8th, Patrese is in 9th place, Alesi is 10th, Capelli is 11th, Martini is 12th, And now here comes the Tyrrell with Senna starting to close up on it. It's the Tyrrell driven by the man who made the fastest lap in Australia last year in the dreadful wet conditions, Nakajima. Now, Nakajima does not like street circuits. He likes big, fast, open, smooth circuits. And Adelaide, of course, is a lot slower, it's a lot twistier, it's a lot bumpier. Now, he will be seeing Senna coming up in his mirrors, and if he doesn't move over, this could be Nigel Mansell's chance.
Yes, but Mansell was closer to Senna a lap ago, and this is the time when Nigel needs to be tucked up under Senna's rear wing. And he's not close enough to pounce on any hesitation that Nakajima might cause. Nakajima's a fairly responsible, very experienced driver, and I think he'll see Senna coming. Well, he hasn't waved him through here. There's a little bit of a twist and a turn. It's a chance for Mansell to get close, because there's no real opportunity for him to get past now till the start-finish line. But somehow Mansell just isn't getting onto Senna's tail right now as he was a lap and a half, 2 laps ago. So his tactics for the moment have been back to front a little bit. But Senna may not get Nakajima into turn 1, and he's not. Well, this is playing into Mansell's hands. Mansell, come on. You're going to get past him. Oh, and Senna's having to work, and Nakajima's not being any help at all.
Now, is he going to do the same thing to Nigel Mansell, or is he going to let Il Leone through? 1.6 seconds was the gap at the end of lap 28. We're on lap 29 now. It's an 81-lap race. Let's see if the blue and white Tyrrell in any way gets in the path of the Ferrari. We're with Nigel Mansell in second position, and yes, of course, there's a race going on behind. Piquet is third, 10 seconds behind Mansell, who closes up to Nakajima to lap him. Berger is 2 seconds behind Piquet, who is third. And this is it now. Watch Mansell zap out. But I think Senna has been able to extend it. No, he hasn't. Look, down into racetrack hairpin. And this is the twisty part of the circuit. The gap was 1.6 seconds at the end of lap 28. We're coming up to the end of lap 29. It looks less than that to me. Nakajima has actually helped Nigel Mansell.
Yes, we had a very good view then of how a driver takes a tow. Mansell took us closer and closer under the wing of the Tyrrell, getting right into the hole in the air made by the Tyrrell, and that helps as the effect, if you like, of sucking the Ferrari along, and he gains momentum and then ducks out as late as possible into the wall of air. We also got a good view as they went round to racetrack hairpin, and a mistake by Gugelmin. He lost his left front brake, and that could well have been brake troubles, because we expect a lot of brake troubles. But Maurizio Gugelmin into the sandpit and probably won't be able to get it out of there, and it may well have been caused by some brake trouble. Now, and here we see it again. And you get those wheels running, and all they do is dig in. So, Senna and Mansell back to the battle. Now, it's here that we saw that Mansell's Ferrari, and if you listen to the engine note, goes a bit off the cam, and this is what Ferrari drivers have been complaining about all season. On the tight circuit, it doesn't have good torque and doesn't pick up well from low revs, and particularly when he passed Nakajima and had to get offline, the engine really coughed as he came out. And you watch the Honda engine in the McLaren when they were close together. You watch it from the Mansell Ferrari, from the onboard camera, you will see how smoothly the Honda brings in the power. And certainly on these tight turns, the second gear corners, the Ferrari engine really can't hold a candle to the McLaren, to the Honda. At top speed, the Ferrari engine is all right, but by then the McLaren has already marched away a bit under acceleration, and only when they're up on the full revs can the McLaren and the Ferrari start to hold on.
Yeah, the gap is now 2.5 seconds. Senna has gone round in 1 minute 20.6, which is the fastest lap of the race. We have a new 8th place man. Riccardo Patrese has got ahead of Derek Warwick. And the gap between Mansell, who is second, and Piquet, who is third, has extended too. Piquet is now 9 seconds behind Nigel Mansell.
You may have seen the tear off come off Senna's helmet then. You saw his arm go across his face. He was pulling the cellophane strips that you have on the visor, across the visor, just to pick up the oil. When it gets too dirty, you simply tear it off, and you've got a clean visor again for a while. You can have several of them on, and they just go around the track. They get blown away by the cars. They're not a problem.
Gugelmin's problems was brakes. Now, that is not at all surprising. He just ran out of brakes, and I suspect some other people are going to do that because they take a tremendous hammering here at Adelaide. The Leighton House car went straight on into the gravel trap, another of the many safety features here and at other Grand Prix circuits. And Ayrton Senna is not getting at all rattled. We have a 7th retirement now. Briard, there are 19 cars running. Senna, 19.78, as you can see the speeds. So, Senna leads Mansell by 2.5 seconds. Piquet is 10 seconds behind in third place. Then it's Berger fourth. Then it's Prost fifth, only 2 seconds behind Berger. But the Austrian in the McLaren is holding his place, seemingly without any problems. Thierry Boutsen is in sixth place. And you can see for yourselves this battle for first position, with Senna holding it as he goes into racetrack hairpin.
Yes, and the two leaders now lapping a lot, nearly a second quicker than Piquet and Berger behind, and the gap reflecting that. Mansell now over 10 seconds clear of Nelson Piquet. Further down the field, Lazy, who was well up on the grid, but started the race by sort of going backwards through the field, but that may be something to do with the fact that he's running a different type of tyre. Has in fact sort of stopped the rot and has come back past Eric Warwick into 9th place now. Meanwhile, Mansell has now broken the lap record, and I think we're going to see a trading of lap records by Senna and Mansell.
We're back live in Adelaide for the continuing coverage of the Grand Prix of Australia by Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. You can see there that Senna is still leading, Mansell is second, Piquet third, Berger fourth, Prost fifth, and Terry Boutsen is in sixth position. Out of the race, Suzuki, Brabham, he stalled his car after a spin. De Cesaris is out, Bernard is out, Morbidelli is out, and Gugelmin went into the sand pit or the gravel pit, unable to continue. Motor racing very close. You can see them now hustling around there. Our leader, Ayrton Senna, battling to keep away from Nigel Mansell. Let's now go back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Martin has, his bodily functions are all coming back. He's now properly conscious, properly aware, and the prognosis for a full recovery is extremely good. So, on behalf of everybody here in Adelaide, to you, Martin, get well soon. We miss you, and we really want to see you back in a racing car. And the Lotus team are doing pretty well in your absence.
And Ayrton Senna's got a battle on his hands. He's coming up to Stefano Modena and Ivan Capelli, having lapped Morbidelli, which Nigel Mansell has still got to do. Now, there's a real mixture of laps coming through. Here is Capelli, followed by Modena, with the race leader, Ayrton Senna. And Nigel Mansell has yet to pass Morbidelli. There's Morbidelli in front of us. That's the Minardi, and 22-year-old Gianni Morbidelli, ex-Formula 3000 driver. He's passed by Nigel Mansell, who's now got to catch and pass Stefano Modena, and the Italian Stefano Modena is way down the field in 18th position. On the left, Senna. In the light blue car is Capelli. And on the right is Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari, with Stefano Modena in the blue and white Brabham with the Judd V8 engine in front. Now watch that, and here are the positions on lap 36 out of 81, and watch Mansell dart out from behind Modena's Brabham. Senna leading by 2 seconds, so Mansell is gaining. Mansell second, Piquet third, Berger fourth, Prost fifth, Boutsen sixth.
And that's interesting. You saw Stefano Modena signal Mansell by, and then the Brabham, no doubt, running a lot less wing. Mansell hadn't got the straight line speed to do it, and Modena had to help him by again. So, but Stefano Modena waiting really for a competitive car next year. When I say waiting, that's not to say that he wasn't giving it every possible effort to get a really good race here, but the Brabham went well early in the morning on Friday and Saturday here, but didn't like the heat. And Stefano's very disappointed, but he's really looking forward to a Tyrrell Honda next year. And Mansell goes past Capelli, who properly looks in his mirror, gives him a little wave. He knew he was there, and that's what a proper racing driver does when being lapped. And that was good, proper disciplined driving by Capelli, and it's a pity the more some of the more, well, not necessarily junior, but slower drivers near the back, some of them pretty senior, can't behave properly like that. It's not difficult to do, and it's a matter of etiquette and manners. There's nothing more to it.
Meantime, as you watch Nigel Mansell second, having passed Capelli and Modena, Nelson Piquet is still there. The Benetton's reliability is to the fore again with its Ford V8 engine. And Piquet, as you can see, is some 12 seconds behind Ayrton Senna, the race leader, but he's only 8 seconds behind Nigel Mansell. He's 3 seconds ahead of Berger, Prost, and that is Alesi, Jean Alesi, the Frenchman. He's just lifted the nose of his car onto the curb, and Alesi, who by the way is on Pirelli tyres, was in 9th position, and now Senna's coming up to get past the Dallara. Then he is going to have to face Alesi, and we're getting a wonderful demonstration of Senna's traffic ability.
Yes, and Jean Alesi, and yes, and Senna's traffic ability has taken him now nearly 3.5 seconds clear of Nigel Mansell. But if they get some clear track, I'm sure Mansell will be able to cut that gap down. But Jean Alesi's had a very unhappy race meeting with the Tyrrell. He's complained about brakes, because we've seen a lot of him in that situation that we just saw him, parked against walls and lightly brushing them and spinning off. He's had several in the practice and qualifying. He's blamed the brakes, and the Tyrrell team have blamed his brain. And there seems to be some disagreement about the cause of all these spins, but he was at it again just then. And here we are on board with Nigel Mansell. And that's how to make passing a back marker easy. Come onto the straight quicker, tuck under his rear wing, pull out, and let your momentum sweep you past. But there's more traffic ahead for Mansell.
Listen to the Ferrari.
Now, listen to the way the Ferrari engine struggles to pick up from low down and is not as clean as the Honda through the slow corners, through that one and through racecourse hairpin at the end of the main straight. And Mansell will want to get past that Dallara, but that's his point, under braking. And he's made it through. See the flame on the overrun from the exhaust.
It really is looking now as though Ayrton Senna is on his way to match the 27 Grand Prix victories of the great Jackie Stewart, and Nigel Mansell is not at all pleased, and you'll never guess who it is he's not pleased with. It is Olivier Griard. I said earlier on that he was a blocker, and sadly he is proving it again in this race. There is the blue flag waving, but Mansell's taken an awful beating in terms of time, and just as Ayrton Senna has been matching or beating records all through this season, and still had to match Jackie Stewart's great record of 27 wins and hadn't yet done so. It looks as though this is the race that it will happen, because Mansell has actually now lost touch effectively with the McLaren Honda of Ayrton Senna, and we are on lap 40 in this 81 lap race. Amazingly, we're still not quite at half distance.
And a new lap record for Moreno. Tremendous performance by Roberto Moreno, although he got a little bit pushed around in the early part of the race and went backwards a bit, but that certainly shows that he's got the ability and the speed to mix it with the best, but maybe as yet not it's not so much a lack of experience, but a lack of confidence, lack of experience in the mix that he's in Grand Prix racing. He's never been up the front until 2 weeks ago in Suzuka, and it takes a little bit of time to realise that you're there and you're as good as the others, and this is the confidence thing. And for Moreno, that will come.
Precisely so. I was talking to him just before the race began, and he said, I still don't know the car, Murray, and I've got a lot to learn about being with a really good Grand Prix team like Benetton. And there is the Benetton darting out from behind the tail ender, and of course it is Nelson Piquet and Emanuele Pirro. So Piquet in 3rd position has lapped Pirro, who is in 17th position, and the leader Ayrton Senna has lapped everybody up to Roberto Moreno at half distance, and Moreno is in 8th position, and he's actually lapping 3rd fastest at the moment. And Senna has just gone round a second faster than Nigel Mansell. The Brazilian, I think, senses his victory. His coolness and calmness in the cockpit is legendary. He has an ice-cold brain, and he thinks out the tactics and then implements them faultlessly, as he is doing now.
Yes, well, this really close and charging race has now spread out a little bit at the front. It's rather symmetrical, in fact, because Senna leads Mansell by 6 seconds, Mansell leads Piquet by 6 seconds, who leads Berger by 6 seconds. So we've got this sort of around about 6-second gap between each of the first 4 cars, and then Prost is a little bit closer. He's just a couple of seconds behind Berger, but not really looking like threatening or even attacking him. I think he's a man in a state of depression, and I think Berger would have to sort of park it on the side of the road and wave him through before Prost is going to actually attack. That's a lazy, messy weekend for him, and he's certainly done nothing this weekend that will make the Tyrrell team mourn his departure.
Ayrton Senna that you're looking at has yet to win an Australian Grand Prix. It's one of the few he hasn't won. He started 4 times in pole position out of 6 races, and as you see, he is very much the fastest man on the circuit, and now leads Nigel Mansell's Ferrari by 7.6 seconds. Indeed, the times between Mansell and Piquet are virtually identical, and they're both lapping a bit slower than Ayrton Senna, but it's still Senna, Mansell, Piquet 3rd, Berger 4th. We haven't seen much of Gerhard Berger, but he's there, ahead of Alain Prost in 6th position, as Capelli exits the pits.
Yes, oh, and that was a bit tight, and that won't please Martini, I don't think, who he let straight out in front of him, but the pit road is part of the racetrack, and Capelli is entitled to be racing as he exit the pits, but he'll probably having to be feeling his car for whatever they did when he was in the pits, and that will make him slower, and that will aggravate his 2 pursuers. Now, Senna really seems to be taking control of this race, that he certainly struggled to do up to half distance, with Mansell attacking him from behind, catching him quite easily every time he got held up or dropped back a bit. But now I think I get the feeling that the McLaren was not working that well on full tanks, but the combination of Senna in a McLaren with less than half a tank full of fuel is beginning to look as it did on Friday and Saturday here, and that was in a class of its own, this driver-car combination, and that says a lot for Senna, because Berger does not make the McLaren look so anything like as sensationally good compared to the others. I think Senna now is really starting to stamp his authority in this race, and it looks to me as if Mansell's beginning to run out of any idea to respond. The lightening of the fuel, though, it seems to have suited the McLaren better than the Ferrari.
On the other hand, Alain Prost, who is 5th, is now catching 4th place man Gerhard Berger. There's Nigel Mansell ahead, and look at the Benetton behind Mansell. My goodness! Nelson Piquet right up with Nigel Mansell, and the gap was 7 seconds, so something very dramatic indeed has happened. All of a sudden, Nelson Piquet is there. Maybe there was a spin by Nigel Mansell.
Yes, I was grabbing the microphone off Murray just to say I think he must have had a spin, and there it is. So we didn't see it, but the cameras did. And he was off the circuit when it was a straight on, clearly, by Mansell. He under braking, and maybe some of Mansell's dropping back. Brake trouble has been what everybody has feared here. All the teams have been struggling to for the brakes to keep up with the tremendous power and acceleration and speed of these cars. Every year they go a bit quicker down the straights and power away a bit more, so the brakes have more to stop. And it becomes very marginal. So Mansell, a little exit under braking, but he still keeps third place, and we see it from Mansell's car now. And now you watch him spin turn it, because it's a straight on. Now boot it, spin it round, that's it, that was a spin turn. And away he goes. There are the big black marks he left, and so he lost only about 5 seconds, because Piquet was 7 behind, and he just got away before. So that, of course, now looks to me that without trouble, that has handed the race to Ayrton Senna. The one potential challenger he had on the road, Nigel Mansell, is now going to be far more busy dealing with Nelson Piquet's attentions from behind. And it looks as if the new world champion is doing just what he intended to confirm the statement, I am the best in the business, and I'm coming to Australia to relax and enjoy myself. And he's done it yesterday, he did it on Friday, and now he's doing it. But Piquet and Mansell, a battle seems to be starting.
Indeed it does. No battle now between Senna and Mansell. It's 17.6 seconds. And Senna can now concentrate for the rest of this 81-lap race. He's on lap 45, on preserving his tyres, looking after the car, not overstretching himself. Well, he's superlatively fit and very determined, and that's very unlikely to happen. But Nigel Mansell struggling to retain that second position. He had hoped, of course, to win again here in Australia, having only won once this year in Portugal. But Nelson Piquet is underlining his comeback in 1990, a win in Japan and a second place in Canada. He's fourth in the championship, and now he's almost second in the race, because Nigel Mansell missed something there, missed a gear maybe, but whatever. Nelson Piquet actually had to brake not to run into the back of the Ferrari, and this, I think, is going to be the change. Nelson Piquet will go through.
I think Mansell is probably in brake trouble. And then, of course, he's got the pickup problem out of that corner where Piquet got very close, and he's going to have to be braking early. Well, he's fighting to keep his place, but I think he's in brake trouble. He's all messy, and he looks like an angry man in the car. He looks very frustrated, does Mansell. But the fact that he's off was a braking error, well, what a disappointment for Nigel Mansell. Whatever it is, he's clearly in trouble, and he was seesawing away at the steering wheel in frustration then. And Mansell has slowed right down, so he's got something pretty serious.
Yes, what a pity for Nigel Mansell, but what good news. Now, here's the replay, and you see Nigel Mansell running wide. Nelson Piquet goes through on superior braking. Mansell has to drop back, that's the S's, and you can see now the gap that is extending, with Nelson Piquet having moved up into second position, and Berger and Prost closing up on the Ferrari. So it's going to be a real race for third soon.
No, this is serious brake problems for Mansell. You saw that his left front locked there, and there's no doubt that Mansell is in what looks to me like almost terminal brake trouble unless he slows right down, and whether that's going to take him out of the points, I think he may well be headed for the pits, and he's waving to his pit, but he can talk to him about it on the radio. Now look at this. This is the brake problem. The left front was grabbing. It makes me think that the right front may not have been working, and the car is really all over the place. And worse still, with brake trouble like that, it behaves very unpredictably, and Prost is now attacking, and we'll hope that Mansell may confuse Berger. And maybe that Ferrari have radioed Mansell at least to stay out to help Prost until they're passed.
And of course, Ayrton Senna's pulling away all the time. 20 seconds now is the gap between Senna leading, Mansell second, but Gerhard Berger's got a major problem. He's got Nigel Mansell in his sights, so he's going for second position, but Alain Prost big in his mirrors, and he knows that the Frenchman in the Ferrari has got the legs of him. He's closed up a lot on the McLaren. So it is Ferrari second, Mansell, McLaren third, Berger, Ferrari fourth, Alain Prost. Berger has a look at Nigel Mansell to go through into second position. Mansell closes the door, and that has allowed not just Berger to close up on Mansell, but Prost to get into a passing situation against Gerhard Berger. And now Ayrton Senna is on lap 48, second, third, fourth together.
Berger has a look now, but he has to anchor up a lot, and that messes him up. But Prost, who's ready to come by, has nowhere to go. And Mansell, not surprisingly, into the pits, but this will be... Yeah, tyres, I don't think changing tyres is going to do it. I'm really certain that it's brakes, but of course you can't do anything about the brakes during the race. They are at something like 400 degrees centigrade. They're a little bit difficult to sort of work on.
So Nigel Mansell out after a 7.7 second stop, and that means to say that Berger behind Piquet in third position, Prost in fourth place. Nigel Mansell has rejoined in fifth position ahead of Thierry Boutsen, and Senna has lapped everybody up to Boutsen, who is in sixth position. So now you're looking at Gerhard Berger's McLaren Honda and the Ferrari of Alain Prost, who, as you can see, are in third and fourth places, and you can see how close the gap is between them. Now, Prost is lapping, or did lap on the previous lap, by 1/10 of a second slower only. The McLaren preparation and the Honda preparation seems, as ever, to have been faultless. Senna doesn't seem to have had a moment's mechanical problems. He had his engine cut out in the half-hour final practice 4 hours before the race began this morning. And both he and Berger had trouble with the big brake ducts on the front of the McLaren, as a result of which they were strengthened, and the results seem to have caused an absolutely faultless race for both of them. McLaren's first and third then. The Benetton of Piquet in second place. Alain Prost in the Ferrari, followed by his teammate Nigel Mansell, fourth and fifth. Not a good race for Ferrari at the moment. And Derek Warwick, I'm sad to say, has stopped.
Well, I must say, the Ferrari pit stop was very impressive indeed. I didn't see how long Mansell was actually stopped, but he only lost about 15 seconds on the road, and Berger is off! And a mistake from Gerhard Berger. He was lucky he had the space then, but that was the mistake that Prost has waited over half the race for. And Alain Prost now moves up into third place, and I think he'll drive away from Gerhard Berger. Berger was struggling, and Berger, quite honestly, that was a self-inflicted error. He's got the Japanese Grand Prix should be on his mind, and maybe Berger is sent. Yes, you see, put it on the curb, and that is fatal. Absolutely guarantees trying to turn into a corner from those big, high, slippery curbs on your outside wheels, the ones that are going to take the load. You really got no chance.
So Alain Prost moves up into third position. And mark this, he is 10 seconds behind Nelson Piquet in second place, who is 19 seconds behind Senna.
Well, I was going on about brake trouble for Mansell, but a new set of tyres seems to have done him no harm at all. He is currently the quickest car on the circuit. And he is, at the moment, 8 seconds behind Gerhard Berger, and lapping quickly. So
live in Adelaide, and Ayrton Senna is indeed dominating this Grand Prix of Australia. Nelson Piquet from Brazil also is in second place. The reigning world champion Alain Prost is third. Gerhard Berger from Austria is fourth. Nigel Mansell from Great Britain is fifth. And Thierry Boutsen from Belgium is in fifth position. Much has been talked about during the day about brake problems round this difficult Adelaide circuit. Most of the cars potentially will have brake troubles towards the end of the race. We did a little piece on brakes that might be interesting to you. Towards the end of the straight, you could look at the front wheel of this car, the Williams car of Prix, and you will see the brakes glow in the dark of the inside of that wheel. They get red hot. The brake discs themselves are made of composite carbon fibre. Just look inside there. Look at the flame. There in the car of Moreno is the bright red of the disc brake. Now, can you imagine the temperatures that are being generated there in excess of 400 degrees? And here's the McLaren. Let's look and see if Senna's brakes get red hot. And indeed they do. Again, the great glow of that red hot friction between the brake pad and the brake disc. Now, there are 7 cars out of this Grand Prix of Australia. They've dropped out, and it's quite interesting, a little bit of trivia, but good information supplied by our research here. Only the Dutch Grand Prix in 1961, where it's the only Grand Prix in 40 years where the complete field finished the race. There were only 15 starters, but they did finish the race complete. Taffy von Trips in a Ferrari won that race. The man who's leading it right now, however, is Ayrton Senna here in Australia. And now we go back for commentary to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Roberto Moreno, who's in 8th place at the moment, and still very much learning what it's like to be in the leading group in the Grand Prix, but I'm quite sure he'll learn fast. And I do hope that Benetton will give him the drive next year, because quite apart from anything else, I can't see that there's any driver around who is available who would do a better job. Certainly, I heard rumours that they were muttering about Thierry Boutsen, but they must be completely mad to think that Boutsen's going to be anything like as good as Moreno.
Quite apart from the fact it would mean yet another broken contract in Grand Prix racing, because Boutsen has signed already for Ligier next year. I've heard talk that the team, Benetton team sponsors might not want 2 Brazilians in the team. I can only say to that, the 2 Brazilians of the magnitude of Nelson Piquet and Roberto Moreno, a very established triple world champion and a really super driver like Roberto Moreno would do credit to any team. Now, Senna leads Piquet by 27 seconds and is on his 55th lap, with Nigel Mansell slicing through the field and Alain Prost going inside the Ligier. And Senna's way out on his own now. It looks like about a 30-second lead to me.
Yes, just going back to the number 2 Benetton seat situation, it is something that never ceases to amaze me in this business, and it's not just the Benetton team who can find this, and it's the lack of understanding by team managers, and very senior ones, of anything to do about how good drivers are, because for anybody who knows anything about drivers to even contemplate that Boutsen's anything like in the same class as Moreno has got to be just not understand motor racing at all, as far as I'm concerned, because there's no question that Boutsen is a slow journeyman and Moreno is a talented driver.
And Nelson Piquet is 27 seconds behind Senna, but he's keeping clear of Alain Prost. And you see the Ferrari there coming up to the sole AGS in this race. It is that of Gabriele Tarquini, the Italian, driving for the French team. He is in 17th place. And here's a rundown on the places on lap 56. In the lead, of course, is Ayrton Senna. In 2nd place is Piquet. 3rd is Prost. 4th is Gerhard Berger. 5th is Nigel Mansell. 6th is Boutsen. 7th is Patrese. 8th is Roberto Moreno, who has actually been lapped. Jean Alesi is in 9th position. Johnny Herbert is 10th. Nakajima is in 11th place. Martini is 12th. Then behind Martini in 13th place, Nicola Larini, who has been lapped twice, as has his teammate Philippe Alliot, who is 14th. 15th is Emanuele Pirro. 16th is Stefano Modena, who has been lapped 3 times, as has Gabriele Tarquini, who you just saw Prost passing. Tarquini in 17th place. Just for the record, Griard is still running 5 laps adrift in 18th place, but Capelli, who was 19th, is out. And the fastest lap thus far was on lap 50 by Ayrton Senna, 1 minute 19.302 seconds, which is a full second inside the previous lap record held by his now teammate Gerhard Berger, who was driving for Ferrari at the time. But things are hopping up, because you see there, now there is the Ligier headed by Tarquini. That is Gerhard Berger in the red and white car, and there's got to be some passing now, because Gerhard Berger has got Nigel Mansell storming on the new tyres behind him. Nigel Mansell 5th and going for 4th, and this is the battle. Gerhard Berger from Austria in the McLaren. He, of course, has not come in for tyres, so Nigel Mansell's got the advantage. And he's now, metaphorically, just picking his moment to get past. With Senna on lap 57, and off goes the Tyrrell. And out goes Satoru Nakajima. That makes the retirements up to 9. Perfectly all right, he's just slid off on the grass, dinged the front of the very unique nosed Tyrrell with its anhedral wings, and Mansell really is fighting now.
Yes, and ahead of him, Piquet has demonstrated, I think, to Alain Prost that whatever Prost does, he can cover it, because tremendous shot there. You can see some of the rubber, the great big chunks of rubber, which are called the marbles. Good close up there, and if you get onto those, they literally roll under the tires, and there goes Nakajima straight on, but just about stops before he gets to the aggravation. Meanwhile, and Mansell is through. Mansell at the end of the straight has dived inside Gerhard Berger, not unexpectedly. He's on fresher tyres, and Berger's been lapping a lot quicker than him, positioned himself well for the toe. So Mansell moves up into 4th place. However, a long way behind Alain Prost, and Alain Prost is lapping quicker than he's done at any other time in the race, but Piquet is still maintaining the gap. Here we see again, replay now. Mansell ducking out as they come into the braking area, and with a little bit more grip, fresher tyres, it enabled him to jump Berger very skillfully on the turn into the corner. He just came off the brakes earlier, wasn't really ahead of him, and jumped inside him at the corner. Very good piece of driving by Mansell.
Il Leone is showing his claws and growling hard, moving up into 4th position. The gap between himself and Alain Prost is 11 seconds, and on the previous lap, Prost was faster, and considerably so, than Senna and Piquet. So we're getting the makings of a very interesting end to the Australian Grand Prix. Not an end that will affect the position of Ayrton Senna, because he hasn't got a cushion. He's got a lounge suite between himself and Nelson Piquet, who is in 2nd position, with Alain Prost in 3rd place, Nigel Mansell 4th, Gerhard Berger 5th, and Thierry Boutsen in 6th position. But the Ferraris have been reliable, and that has made this race. The McLarens have been reliable and faster as far as Ayrton Senna is concerned. And now let's see what the situation is as Nigel Mansell goes past. Well, he's matched the lap time of Alain Prost, but he's no faster. There's that distinctive silhouette of the Ferrari. It's been a very disappointing move for Nigel Mansell when he left the Williams team and went to Ferrari. He's had 3 wins, but he must have expected a lot more than that.
Yes, and amongst the front runners now, really the interesting battle is if Mansell is going to get after his own teammate Alain Prost. I'm sure he'd like to, and Griard once again being a problem. We've already had some fist waving at him from Mansell. And Mansell is no fan of Olivier Griard, and Berger got in front of him and gave him a little bit of a brake test, and quite right too, because Griard has no business in Grand Prix racing if he can't look in his mirrors. He's not racing anybody else. He's 5 laps behind the field. He has no reason to go around interfering with the people who have got a serious motor race on their hands. It's absolutely disgraceful, this sort of stuff. But Berger is still doing what he can to stay with Mansell. Assistance from the back markers has helped. So Mansell isn't yet away from Berger. And he's got Prost some 7 or 8 seconds ahead. And I'm quite sure that he'd like to finish the season, he'd very much like to finish the season in front of teammate Alain Prost. He's frustrated and he's looking for any straws to clutch at because he's tried hard. He's had a very short straw as far as mechanical reliability is concerned with his Ferrari. And but as he said yesterday, I saw him being interviewed, he said, well, he said, I'd like to get rid of all my bad luck this year because I need the good luck for next year. And I would agree with that.
Yeah, and Senna's coming up to lap Patrese, and here is the replay of Nigel Mansell giving the highway code instructions to Olivier Griard as he goes past him for the second time. Now, I'm laughing, but it is actually no laughing matter. Mansell's getting on for 300 Ks when he was doing that, and I'm sure there will be a very brisk interview between the Englishman and the Frenchman when this race is finished, and Nigel will probably be supported by several other drivers as well. Now, Ayrton Senna is the only man who looks like achieving his objective in this race out of the 4 top men. I said at the beginning of the race that Ayrton Senna would be determined to win this race to erase any criticism that there had been of him after the collision at the start of the Japanese Grand Prix. That Alain Prost would be equally determined to win, and that is Senna closing up on Patrese, who is in 7th place.
And that was a rare mistake by Senna. He went a little bit wide then and lost rather a lot of ground to the Williams, but he can afford the luxury of a very minor error. It wasn't anything serious. And with reference, of course, to the incident in Japan, strangely enough, there's been a lot of uninformed criticism of Ayrton Senna here by people who really ought to understand motor racing better. People who should know have been saying, well, it was Senna's fault, the accident, and Prost was an innocent victim, and that, of course, is complete rubbish. Prost made the bed on which he ended up lying all his own work. He opened the door there, invited Senna in, did not commit himself to going to the right-hand side of the track as he should have done, and a new lap record for Nigel Mansell. So he's getting the bit back between his teeth on his fresh tyres, but he's actually, with the traffic, he's lost a little bit of ground to Alain Prost. He's now 4 seconds further behind him than he was a few laps ago, so he's not out of sight. He can still catch him, but he's going to have to work very hard. And Berger is still lurking, not so far away. They're well over a second under the old lap record.
The fastest lap, actually, is that of Ayrton Senna. It's still the lap 51:19.3. And Senna walking in! What has happened? That is Senna! This is incredible! Ayrton Senna, there's his car! Ayrton Senna is not going to win the Australian Grand Prix. Zap! Straight off the circuit, over the clag and into the tyres.
Well, I beg his pardon, that at the previous corner or two, that wasn't a mistake by Senna, that was a problem that he had. And, so Senna out of the race.
And, of course, Nelson Piquet leading, and there he is. Nelson Piquet, the 3 times world champion from Brazil, who won in Japan, now leads the Australian Grand Prix, and out goes Gabriele Tarquini. They're disappearing like ice cubes in the desert now. The mice are getting at the machinery, and the machinery that the mice are most getting at is the brakes, because that may have been Senna's problem. But never mind what the problems were in this sensational development. Ayrton Senna, that everybody, including me, I must admit, confidently expected to win, is not going to do so. Nelson Piquet is on his 63rd lap, leading Alain Prost by 10 seconds, who is 7 seconds ahead of Mansell, who is 5 seconds ahead of 4th place man Gerhard Berger. Thierry Boutsen is 5th, 21 seconds behind Berger, and Patrese is in 6th position. We have got a race on our hands because Prost and Mansell could either of them win.
Well, Piquet's looked in good shape to cover any move made by Prost behind, and I don't think we need feel too sorry for Ayrton Senna, because I think he will quite clearly, there was some sort of problem with the car there. The car just went straight on. It didn't make any attempt to turn the corner, but I don't think he looked as if he was wounded in any way, and I think he'll feel very happy the way he dominated this meeting up to that point. A racing driver can't get disappointed when he's done everything in his power, put not a foot wrong, got the pole, led the race comfortably, controlled it, and then something goes wrong.
Going straight off, it was either very much a brake failure, I would have thought, in just a fading of the brakes. It could have been a suspension failure. The only other thing it could have been is Ayrton Senna perhaps is suffering from heat exhaustion. When he got out of his car, he did go behind the wall and he did sit down, so he could be fatigued by dehydration. But he had made a small error of judgment a lap before on another corner. Alain Prost now in 2nd position, and that's the car you're looking at right now. The race is now being led by Nelson Piquet. Let's go back to Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Yeah, and there are going to be people, obviously, who disagree with my point about Senna and his retirements when it comes to Japan. But of the 3 of the 4 were certainly car problems, and the 5th too, I suspect. So Nelson Piquet leads Alain Prost by 8 seconds and is fighting back. Piquet has got the message. He's got a radio too. And the message, appropriately enough, will have come from Gordon Message, who is the Benetton team manager. And the message will be, put your foot down, Nelson, because the Frenchman was catching. It's 8.5 seconds now. Mansell is only 4.7 seconds behind Prost. Piquet leads, Prost 2nd, Mansell 3rd. Gerhard Berger is in 4th position. 5th is Boutsen, 6th is Patrese, and in 7th place behind Patrese is Roberto Moreno in the 2nd Benetton. We may yet see the 2 Benettons in the top 6 here as they were in Japan.
And Piquet want to catch Griard on the straight. I don't think he's going to. He will not want to have to follow Griard through the twisties. Oh, big relief for Nelson Piquet. He's just managed to nip through, because, of course, you can't control whereabouts on the lap you're going to catch a back marker. And if you're going to catch Griard, that was the perfect place. He didn't hold him up through the corners, pulled him in on the straight, and just nipped through before the twisties.
On lap 67 out of 81. Don't leave the room. There's a lot to come yet.
And now, of course, Piquet knows that he may well get a little bit of help from Griard, because he got through him without losing anything, and yet Prost and Mansell have still got to fight their way around Griard, and we know what Mansell thinks about that already this afternoon in 2 encounters.
Mansell is now under 3 seconds behind Alain Prost, and he's lapping significantly faster than Nelson Piquet. Piquet's just gone round in 1:21.2. Mansell's just gone round in 1:19.0. So he's taken 2 seconds out of Piquet's lead, and of course much the same out of Alain Prost's 2nd position. Mansell is the man to watch at the moment in 3rd place. This is Piquet, the leader.
Yes, having just done the new lap record at 19.060, his lap he's just completed was 19.069, just 9 thousandths of a second slower. So Mansell is absolutely fired up, right on the limit, and lapping consistently very fast when he has no traffic. Now, Nelson Piquet, a wealth of experience, he's got lots of motivation, he's in the mood to win, and he is going to make himself, I'm sure, very tough to beat. Prost, I think, is a man of little resolve at the moment, and if anybody's going to give Piquet a real challenge, if Mansell can catch and pass Prost, and Mansell is right in there, and Moreno is amongst the traffic being lapped.
Yeah, well, let's watch this, because as you can see, Nigel Mansell is within striking distance, not literally, I trust, of his teammate Alain Prost in second position, who is now dropping back. You see, Mansell is going faster. Prost, it's not that Prost is stationary in terms of his comparative lap speeds. Nigel Mansell is going quicker all the time. And while you watch this, just bear in mind that Nelson Piquet is on $100,000 a point for a win, and that is $900,000 if he wins, as he did in Japan. Nice going.
Yes, and Mansell has got a real problem behind the traffic here.
Maybe, just maybe, Roberto Moreno knows from the radio exactly what the situation is, in which case he would not have been making it easy for the Ferrari to get past. Mansell has done so. And of course he has lapped Roberto Moreno, who is in 7th position. It's still Piquet leading. He's now on his 70th lap ahead of Prost, Mansell, Berger, Boutsen, Patrese. Moreno has been lapped in 7th position, and here comes Nigel over the line. He's now 3.9 seconds behind Prost.
And a disastrous lap there for Nigel Mansell. He lost 4.5 seconds on the speed that he had previously been doing, and that has really hurt his chase of Nelson Piquet. Prost also lost a bit of time. I can see that Mansell we see from the helicopter here the gap between the two Ferraris. Mansell will certainly be able to catch Prost quite quickly. He'll then have to fight a way past, and meanwhile Piquet is maintaining a very healthy cushion. He'll be forever thankful that he got past Griard so cleanly at such a critical time in the race.
Yeah, and he's actually lapping fastest of all at the moment. He's the only one who's lapping in under 1:20. But that, of course, was as much as anything else because Nigel Mansell was so badly held up. There is the Englishman. We're on lap 70 in this absolutely riveting Australian Grand Prix. Perfect weather, perfect organisation, perfect administration, a super place, and everybody here in Adelaide is getting their just rewards. And Piquet then on his 71st lap. Here is Alain Prost in second place, and you can see how close Mansell is.
And a fine fighting response from Nelson Piquet, because Piquet has just put up his fastest lap of the race. And so he's working hard to maintain this 12-second gap, and a new lap record from Nigel Mansell. So no question of tyre problem this late in the race. The three leaders, Prost has done his fastest lap of the race, so has Mansell, and his, of course, is yet another new lap record. However, Piquet is playing it very cool. He seems to be equal to anything these two Ferrari drivers can throw at him in terms of quicker laps. The gap is still 12 seconds, and Piquet has managed just recently to respond to anything that comes at him from behind and keep a good, healthy gap up.
He's driving a super race, in fact. And it's lovely to see this man back at the top after a lot of criticism from a lot of people about his lack of motivation, which frankly was caused by the fact that the Lotus car that he had last year and the year before was really not in the top rank. And Nelson Piquet is a driver who needs the motivation of a really good car, which he's got now. And this will be enormous encouragement for John Barnard and his design team in England as Prost goes through to complete his 71st lap. And Mansell now is 2.2 seconds behind him.
And Mansell now pulverising the lap record. He's reduced it by another 2 or 3 tenths of a second. He's now, nobody else has got anywhere near to 1:19, about 1:19 and a half, the quickest of anyone else. 1:18.45 to Nigel Mansell, and still he isn't right on Prost's tail. So this leading three, although they're not nose to tail, they are fighting each other very hard, and the battle is all about, they know where each other is, they are responding to each other's thrusts.
And there are, of course, no team orders or deference required in the Ferrari team. The World Championship has been lost to Alain Prost. He's on his own now. He's not going to be supported by Nigel Mansell. He's going to be attacked every inch of the way, and you can see that it's happening. Mansell is visibly getting closer. Prost is on worn tyres. Mansell is on considerably less worn tyres because he's come in and changed them with that 7.7 second stop, and the benefit is showing. It is now the end of lap 72. There were 10 laps to go at the end of that. Now here it is. Mansell will be going through to second place before very much longer. Alain Prost will be fighting for his pride, his reputation, and the extra points.
And Mansell really flying. 18.4 again. Just 300th slower than his previous lap, which was a new lap record. But it's the old question, will Prost be helpful, a nice teammate? Because if he doesn't want to help Mansell through, Mansell could take several laps to get past him. Remember, at this range, his wings don't work well. He hasn't got the grip that he's been enjoying. But he's on a tremendous high at the moment, and the important part is when they get out onto the main straight. And it's this corner, onto the straight. Mansell more grip through with fresher tyres. He's going to get him. He's in perfect place. If he can get more grip on in the braking area, I'm sure he's going to have a go. Mansell ducks out. Mansell is through. No fight from Prost, which was a proper and gentlemanly thing to do, because Mansell still has, well, maybe if there's no traffic, he could possibly just about catch Piquet. But then he'd have to find a way past. But I suspect that Piquet will be protected by traffic, and that's fair enough, because he's had to pass it already and find a way around. But Piquet's really flying as well. He's giving it everything. He understands the threat, but he has got an 11-second cushion to Mansell, which in under 10 laps, really, particularly with traffic, there's nothing I think that Mansell can do. Here, this was a classic manoeuvre. Prost did not fight Mansell, and you don't fight the inevitable. That was sensible driving by Prost. Let Nigel get up there and have a go. And that he'll do, but I don't think he can catch Nelson Piquet. Piquet, far too experienced. He's the motivation finally seems to be really back there, and with Piquet's head finally back in working order and his experience and skill, I'm sure he's not going to throw this one away or really give Mansell any real, not give Mansell any real chance.
I remember the Japanese Grand Prix last year. Nannini had settled for a certain second place, and incidentally, I'm glad to say that Alessandro Nannini, like Martin Donnelly, is making progress, and I'm sure that they will both be watching this race. I know Martin is. And but Alessandro Nannini last year in Japan had decided to settle for second place when Senna was well ahead of him, and he said he could have gone a lot faster and won the race had he known the problem that Senna had. But now Nelson Piquet, as James has said, is far too seasoned a veteran to make a mistake like that. And I can imagine a constant dialogue going on between the race engineer of Nelson Piquet in the Benetton team, and I was saying that this is a wonderful encouragement for John Barnard and his design team, who, having done Ferrari and done McLaren, are now, they hope, going to do the same for Benetton.
Well, if Mansell can stick in a couple of laps down by his lap record, round about 18.1, 18.5, Piquet's got a back marker. That would have taken a bit of time off him. And that was Pierluigi Martini, but he's safely through, which means, and you see Mansell down at the end of the straight there. Mansell, of course, that's a cushion for Piquet to have Martini between them. There's a good chance that Mansell won't be able to just sweep past him without any delay. Probably the more likely thing that could change this result amongst the leaders is a late mechanical failure. Remember, this is a hard circuit on cars, and it's very hot, and they can break down late in the race. And yet another new lap record for Nigel Mansell, and he's pulled in nearly 2 seconds on that lap, taken 2 seconds out of Piquet's lead. 8.5 seconds it now is.
So Mansell really going for it. Now, I dare say last year, if anybody had said, next year, Nelson Piquet will win 2 Grand Prix, the reply might have been, and pigs might fly, in which case they would have been very, very wrong indeed. Look at this, Piquet on his way to his 2nd Grand Prix victory in succession, in a fine car, fine driver at the wheel, 3 World Championships behind him, but so is Nigel Mansell, in sight. Watch this. Here's Nigel Mansell. What an absolutely stupefying drive the Englishman has had in this Australian Grand Prix. Now, 8.5 seconds was the gap between race leader Nelson Piquet and the man you're watching, Nigel Mansell, at the end of the 75th lap. This is the end of the 76th lap coming up, and I'm waiting for Nelson Piquet to go through. There is Mansell over the line. Piquet has already gone over, of course, 6.8 seconds. Mansell has taken 1.7 seconds out of Nelson Piquet's lead on that lap. And if he can keep it up, he can catch Piquet, but can he get past him? That's a different story altogether.
And this is a fabulous charging drive by Mansell. He's pumped full of adrenaline, there's no doubt. He's throwing the car around the circuit, over the curves. He was riding up the curves. Very well done. He's really on a high, there's no doubt about it. And he's driving quite beyond even himself in the lifters get. And I saw some dust of somebody disappearing. That was a strange route to take.
Yeah, but look at this. Look at Mansell diving out from behind Griard, up behind the Benetton. He's within striking distance now. This is great stuff. Nigel Mansell can win the Australian Grand Prix.
And that was Piquet doing what I said he wouldn't. The pressure has got to him. Maybe he's out of practice, because Mansell now has a real chance to win. Now remember, the Benetton was the fastest car on the straights this morning in the warm-up, and that is a problem for Mansell, but Mansell's got a grip advantage. So, well done Nelson, because he's given us an even more exciting finish than we thought we were going to get.
4 laps to go. Nigel Mansell going for it. Piquet knows he's there. Piquet knows he's gone off. Piquet's got a problem. He will be worried, but settled in his cockpit. He's got Riccardo Patrese in front of him in the Williams, who is in 6th position. Now, will Patrese move over? He's in his 208th Grand Prix. Nobody knows more about Grand Prix racing than he does. And he's got Piquet leading, Mansell second. You can see how close they are, bearing down on the Williams Renault. And Piquet needs desperately to get past before the long corner at the racetrack hairpin.
Now that helps Mansell. Mansell's getting a toe behind the Williams, but he's not quite close enough. He won't be able to attack Piquet this time under braking at the end of the straight. But I think he'll be pleased that Piquet has nobody immediately in front of him. He'll want Piquet on his own, I think, to attack for the moment. He can't rely on a back marker to interfere. He'd rather have a clear run with the extra grip he's got. But he is faced with this big problem that the Benetton is quicker on the main straight.
Well, now, Piquet, don't forget, on more worn tyres than Nigel Mansell. We're on lap 79. There's this one, and lap 80, and lap 81, and that will be the end of the Australian Grand Prix. But who is going to see that checkered flag first? Well, it's not. And that's Prost. Running very, very wide indeed at Brewery Bend out of Stag Turn on his way down the long straight, approaching it. And Piquet's giving it everything it'll take now. The Benetton with the Ford V8 engine, the Ferrari with the V12 engine. And this is lap 79. Now, down the long straight. This is where the Benetton speed, and they've probably got less downforce on the car than the Ferrari has, with its greater power. This is the long, long drag down to the second gear racetrack hairpin. Now, it's from here onwards that Nigel Mansell starts to close. Round Paddock Turn, down to Foster's hairpin, then the short straight up to the S's. Now, watch Piquet.
And it looks to me as if the turbulence from Piquet's car and maybe the tremendous high of the charge that Mansell put on may have just taken a little bit of an edge off him. He may now really be feeling exhaustion, and he's into the buffeting area. And just when he needed an even greater surge of energy at the end of this race, unfortunately, it looks to me as if he just about used up. He must be really drained from that chase and unable to draw on any further reserves. Piquet's responding well and smoothly. His fastest lap of the race, so Piquet is really fighting back despite the mistake. Piquet is showing real fight, and good for him.
1:18.5, Nelson Piquet, lap 79. We're on lap 80 out of 81. 1:18.89 was Nigel Mansell, so he was 3/10 slower than Piquet. This sensational Australian Grand Prix is going right down to the wire, right down to the checkered flag. Racetrack hairpin. Now this is Mansell's gaining area on his newer tyres. But if Nelson Piquet can get through the S's first, and I have little doubt that he will do so, he's then going to have the quick bit at the Jack Brabham straight to consolidate the small lead that he has over Nigel Mansell as they go into the last lap. And this is the last lap. Piquet through the S's. Now sweep left up to Wakefield Turn, the right-hander, 145 k's between, up to East Terrace Bend, the left-hander. 1 second separates Nelson Piquet on the last lap of the Australian Grand Prix and Nigel Mansell.
Yes, and two drivers really flying around right on the limit. A marvellous finish to what's been a very exciting race. Big, and a back marker in front. Now, can this help? And it's Modena, who we know is quick on the straight, but Mansell is not really close enough. But he's going to get a double toe, because those cars side by side give him an even bigger hole in the air, but I don't think he'll do it. And oh, he's having a go. Oh, well, it's no problem, but it means, and he was right, he had to have a go there. He was, Piquet will be glad he didn't take him off, because they weren't far from contact, and Mansell was highly committed, but easy second place for Mansell, no problem at all. But here we see it again. Now Mansell takes the opportunity and only just stopped enough to avoid Nelson. So Nelson Piquet wins.
Yes, Nelson Piquet wins his 22nd Grand Prix as Glenn Dix waves the checkered flag. And look at the overjoyed Benetton mechanics. Well, Nigel Mansell did his duty for England, Ferrari and himself. He really tried in the last place where he could have got by, but Nelson Piquet, with his experience, managed to hold him off, helped by Stefano Modena, unwittingly, of course. And so, the Australian Grand Prix of 1990, the last race of the championship year, with Alain Prost coming home, has been won brilliantly by Nelson Piquet in the Benetton Ford, from Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari, Alain Prost in third position, and there are the victors, Piquet and Mansell. They can both be very, very proud of themselves and their driving here in Australia. And once again, the flags of Brazil are flying, but this time not for Ayrton Senna, but for Nelson Piquet. Gerhard Berger finishes in fourth place, the only McLaren to finish, let alone in the top six. And we wait now for the fifth and sixth men to come home. Thierry Boutsen and Riccardo Patrese in their Williams Renaults, which have proved again to be reliable, but again, sadly, not to be fast enough when it comes to it. But a magnificent win, not just for Piquet, but for Benetton as well, because Roberto Moreno finishes in 7th place in his second Grand Prix in a real Grand Prix car, having finished second in Japan. Here's the victor. Wow, the oldest man in the race, the second highest point scorer of all time. It's all joy. Now here's the no, it wasn't. They're just coming in. An enormous applause. It must be a record crowd here today for the Australian Grand Prix. It's been a record crowd every other day of the meeting, and my goodness, have they had their money's worth. Victory in Australia for Nelson Piquet. Second, Nigel Mansell, 3 seconds behind the Benetton. Third, Alain Prost, 2 Ferraris in the top 3. Gerhard Berger 4th, Thierry Boutsen in 5th place, and Riccardo Patrese 6th. Well, of course, Ayrton Senna has won the 1990 World Championship. Nothing was going to affect that, whatever happened in Australia. But an unhappy finish for the Brazilian to his Grand Prix year. Enormous contention and controversy in Japan, and a very dramatic and violent retirement here in Australia.
Yeah, wonderful scenes here in Pit Alley. Congratulations to Nelson Piquet. First started GP racing in 1978, now 38 years of age. His 22nd win in Grand Prix racing. We will be back after the break.
Australian Formula One Grand Prix telecast, sponsored by Ford. Have you driven a Ford lately? Amstrad Generation 3. It's a business out there. Ava Super Saver. The longer you rent, the cheaper it gets. Nissan. That's my car. Carlton and United Breweries. Coca-Cola. You can't beat the feeling in Adelaide. And General Motors Holdens.
Welcome back to Adelaide. The 3 men who made such a terrific race of the Australian Grand Prix for 1990, the 500th in history. Nigel Mansell had the chance going for him down there in the pits, but the man who's done it is 38-year-old Nelson Piquet, the oldest man in GP racing, but a terrific result for Benetton and also Ferrari, 2nd and 3rd. And you can see the champagne being sprayed on this very enthusiastic crowd. And there is the Ferrari force down there in force. Let me tell you, they just chanted Nigel, Mansell, 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 as though he had won the race and hadn't finished 2nd. He certainly made a race of it. The charge was a beauty, and one that will be long remembered, because very, very warm out there today. Must have been tremendously energy sapping. But now with a bit of champagne and the fact that he's finished in such good style before he goes back to his old team Williams, a terrific result for Nigel Mansell. But once again, we must not forget the man who did it, and when the pressure was really on in those last couple of laps, he answered the pressure that was applied by Mansell, and that was Nelson Piquet. And with me right now, Alan Jones. Alan, you've been there, you've done it all, but you've raced against both these men. It was a nice finish, wasn't it?
It was great. I spoke to Nigel just before the start, and I said, have a good one, Nige. And he said, well, it'd be nice to go out on a high note. You know, look at them. They're picking up bits of tyre. That's what's called the marbles. When we refer to cars that are going through a corner and they run wide and they go onto what is referred to as the marbles, well, that's it. It's literally chunks of rubber that are thrown off the tyre as the race progresses. And if you run wide and get onto them, that's just like going onto oil. It's very slippery indeed. But no, Nigel was saying, well, look, as long as I can go out on a high note, I'll be super happy. And although he didn't win the race, he's certainly gone out on a high note.
Yeah, there was a school of thought that Nigel, maybe his best racing days might have been behind him, that he wasn't as good coming from behind as what he is in front. Well, he disproved that today. He had the motivation right, and you know, you don't criticise a champion, I guess, do you?
No, I mean, you know, Nigel is a fighter. I mean, the guy does give 110% the whole time, you know, which is, it's good. That's the mark of a great driver, I reckon.
Certainly is, and there is a former great driver down there in the pits ready for us right now, Jackie Stewart, with 1, 2 and 3.
Well, Nelson Piquet, tremendous victory, the oldest man in the race. How hard was the race?
Well, in the beginning, I tried to set up the pace of the people in front, and if I do that, I start to have a lot of wheel spin, and I was decide to not stop, and I slowed down a little bit. And Senna was going very, very quick for my pace. If I to get at the same pace he was, for sure I go destroy my tires. And I was keeping second was good in the beginning. My brakes was very good. I overbrake Prost, Berg, and Mansell, and the car was quite good. There was maybe I could not compete with Senna, but the rest was very good. And after that, he was out. I think Mansell had a pit stop with the new tires, and he came very strong behind me. And I lost the concentration already because it was too slow for the quick space. And when I start to go a little bit quick, I make a mistake. And I came back, my tire was a little bit dirty.
That was when you went wide and went off the road a little bit.
Yes. And when I came back, my tire was dirty, but I said the only way here is to do the maximum I can and to see the car, the way the car was good, because I could hold him easy in the last 3 laps and finish in the front.
Wonderful. Congratulations. 2 great Grand Prix at the end of the season. Nigel, must be one of your hardest drives and one of your best drives.
Yeah, it was a great drive, Jackie, and I think at the race it was a fabulous race. Nelson did a fabulous job from start to finish. I had a bit of a misdemeanor in the middle, which you might have watched.
It was exciting for us.
It wasn't for me. No, I had a bit of brake problem, and I was pushing a bit too hard. I was pushing Ayrton, and I used the rear tyres up as well. And I knew I was going to lose it, so rather than spin, I went straight on, and then I just didn't want to waste any time to come back on the circuit. And then it was a question, I had to give the pit, I had to stay out just that 1 extra lap to let them know I had to come in. Because if I would have come in, I would have got cold tyres. And I think I lost about 8 to 10 seconds just on 2 laps.
So you gave your pits time to put the tyre blankets on, the warmers on, get them up to temperature, and then you were ready to go?
No, they're already in, but they gave them time to bring them out of the pits and get them ready, and then we just flew. But I think Nelson will agree and Alan will agree, there was quite a lot of problems getting past people out there.
Well, we witnessed that. That was pretty tricky. Anyway, congratulations. Your last drive for Ferrari, at least for the next 12 months or so. Congratulations and a great finish. Alan, just a quick word.
Nothing special. I think it was a good choice to stop for tires. I started on these. It was soft tires, and I did not stop. I think it was better to do like Nigel or Nelson. We started on C's, and I had brake problem at the end. I let Nigel go through and try to catch Nelson, but it was a good race for Ferrari today.
Well done to all 3 of you, and now back up to our commentary position from beyond Winner's Circle.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And there is the sign of the man who has won the Australian Grand Prix for 1990, Nelson Piquet. His 22nd in his marvellous career, which has had its ups and downs. He was a star in the early 80s, then he went through a bit of a bad trough the last few years. Now he is with Benetton, and Benetton seem to be, Alan, right now, among the front runners in design. I mean, John Barnard has got this team really going.
Well, he sure has, Ken, but it really does bring home the adage that you are only as good as the car that you're sitting in. You know, I mean, if you put a really good driver in an uncompetitive car, there's no way he can carry it around on his back. Now he's in a good competitive car, and he's reacting accordingly.
Well, here is the auction that's going on. This is the gear that the crews from the various teams sell off to very, very eager members of the public. They can virtually ask for what they want, and they get it. Alan, you've seen this many, many times. Have you seen some ridiculous prices paid for uniforms, T-shirts and things like that?
Well, yeah, traditionally America used to be the place, because Watkins Glen, or the American Grand Prix, was the last Grand Prix that was held in the season. And so all the crews literally used to gear up for that. But now, of course, Australia's taken its place. But it's quite funny. We go touring car racing during the course of the year, and you might be out at Malala or in Tasmania, and you'll see 2 or 3 spectators walking through with Benetton shirts or Ferrari shirts, and not hard to tell they've been to the Grand Prix.
Yeah, because the teams, it's part of the bonus for a lot of the teams, the guys who do a lot of the legwork. This is all part of their income at the end of the year. It's almost like a bonus for them, isn't it?
Oh, too right. And it's also good for the spectators. I mean, it's a bit of a prize to have. I mean, there are some very attractive shirts out there, and some are more prized than others, but you're dead right. A lot of the mechanics get little bits of the car, little bits of apparel. They get them all together, and they look forward to this minute here. You know, it's 4:10 Australian Grand Prix time for them. That's bonus time.
Yeah, well, it's been a bonus for us as far as the coverage is concerned, because we've had some wonderful racing here right throughout the weekend, and not the least the 1990 Grand Prix was no disappointment whatsoever. The guys really made a race of it. We will be back after the break.
Concrete steel.
This wonderful crowd streaming out of the Adelaide circuit after watching an enthralling Grand Prix, and there is just thousands of them lined up in pit lane, waiting for a glimpse of the champions, waiting for a glimpse of the car. They want to savour every moment. They don't want to go home. They want more, but there is no more, and it will dawn on them in a few moments' time. But it has been a wonderful day. And down there right now, talking to a man who never won a world championship, but possibly should have done, because he was one of the very, very best. Sterling Moss with Darrell Eastlake.
Well, Sterling, you told me yesterday you'd been to the first Grand Prix. Here it is, the 500th, and what a day for Australia.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I mean, it couldn't have been a better result, really. I mean, let's face it, Nelson Piquet, they thought was over the hill. He only gets paid on points, they say, and my God, with an old banger, the old Ford, he wins, and Nigel came through and really showed what Nigel's like when he's trying, and it was absolutely magic, I must say.
Do you think that the bad feeling and the bad memories of Japan have been erased because it's been a great day for the sport?
No, I don't think they've been erased, but I mean, I think they'll all say what a fantastic day. I mean, Australia's turned it on, and this is the best ever, huh? Fantastic.
What is so special about the Australian Grand Prix? I mean, everybody really looks forward to coming here.
That's what's special, those people out there, the way this place, there isn't one person, in every person I've met, who isn't polite, happy, the police, the waiters, everybody just turns on. It's an incredible way you do it. I just don't know. I don't know how you do it. I wish you could export it.
Well, you've been coming here for many years, and I guess we'll see you again next year.
Oh, yeah, I'm still young. I hope to come for a lot more.
Great to see you again.
Thank you.
Nobody would argue with that. Alan Jones, you must take great pride in what you see has developed here in Adelaide, because it's well-known fact that until you won the World Championship, Formula One interest out here was at I would imagine, a low-key level. Then you won the World Championship, everything seemed to fall into place, and you've got a certain part of the circuit named after you, but this is wonderful.
Well, it does, Ken. I mean, what Sterling just said then is basically what they all think. They love coming to Australia. It's so well organised. Everyone's extremely friendly to them. The sun, 9 times out of 10, is always out. They always have a great time, and to walk through and say hello to them all and have them pay you that sort of compliment as an Australian makes me feel very proud indeed.
Yeah, but you were the pioneer in many ways. You were the one you were the hook they hung it on.
Yeah, I just wish that Channel 9 would have been doing the televisation of all those races then.
Yeah, we did. That's the most unfortunate part. We didn't see a lot of your races in those early days, and that the championship that you didn't quite win the one before, you know, when the point scoring system was all over the place, that was a wonderful year.
It certainly was, but anyway, we're doing them now, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, well, it's as we keep on saying, another great race in Adelaide, and it's going to continue because there's another one coming up next year, which will be even bigger and better. They seem to be able to top themselves all the time. The facilities have improved dramatically. The officials have done their work so very, very well, and it's congratulations to everybody concerned. Down in the pits, Darrell Eastlake is talking with another great Aussie around the track, Vern Schuppan.
Well, Vern, I know this is a terrible thing to say to you, but you're one of our most famous exports. But I mean, here you come at the Grand Prix, and we only see you once or twice here on Channel 9, which really annoys us. You've won Le Mans, you're one of the premier sports car drivers of the world, and still involved.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, this has just been one of the greatest events of the year, and it's still one of the most exciting things as a driver, just to watch a race like this. Everyone was treated to something quite special.
One of the great things about motorsport, it's so unpredictable. Senna looked like he had it all wrapped up, and then bang, all of a sudden he's out and the whole thing changes.
Yeah, I mean, that's, as you say, that's so unpredictable about motor racing, and a lot of people were willing Senna to win. I was, but what a fabulous result anyway. You know.
Vern, can you ever see the day there will be an Australian team in Formula One that's competitive?
Anything's possible. But it's, you know, it's the pinnacle of motor racing, and the dollars involved are so horrific. You know, $50 and $100 million budgets, and these people have been doing it for a long time, the guys that are winning, and you can see what some of the other smaller teams are trying to do, and it's two different games, isn't it?
Well, you're back to Japan. I guess more testing, more setups for next year's World Sports Car Championship?
Yep, I go back again tomorrow, and we're building a new car for next year for Le Mans and also the Japanese Championship. And I was just lucky enough to sneak home and see this, have a couple of days back here. It's been worth every minute of it, that's for sure.
Local boy comes home. Congratulations on the effort, and let's hope we see you back in the winner's circle as Le Mans.
Thanks a lot, Darren. Great.
Thank you, Darrell. Well, there's a lot of activity, as you can imagine, going on down there. I believe some of those race drivers today lost a tremendous amount of weight, and the man who has been down there talking to them, of course, Jackie, they look all tuckered out.
Yes, indeed, but I was very surprised at the resilience that still was clearly there for Nelson Piquet, who, as we are already identified, is the oldest driver in the race. Nigel Mansell came in looking a little bit pooped. Prost came in like a young thing. He's got an amazing ability, that man, to be strong at the end. He's the lightest of them all, Alan, and yet he seems to have the energy level that can be sustained, which is quite impressive.
But don't you think a lot of drivers, I call them energy-saving drivers, a lot of drivers exert a lot more energy than other drivers do? Some lazy drivers in terms of looking after themselves physically in the car. They may not be as fit physically outside of the car than a lot of other people, but when the race is over, they actually hop out looking like they've done nothing.
Well, certainly Prost works hard at his fitness, but he's able to use it correctly, as you so carefully do. Perhaps we could talk about that a little later on, but I hear we've got someone down the pits there.
Yeah, we've got a man who's obviously very happy with what's happened here over the last few days. Talking with Darrell Eastlake, the Premier of South Australia, John Banner.
Mr. Premier, or may I call you John, what goes through your mind when you look across there and look at that sight?
Well, this is a fantastic sight. As you can see, the end of the event, it's been a superb race this year. The weather has been great for us. The crowds have been huge, and look at the good humour around. You know, it's really shows how we can do things here in Adelaide, I think.
How many Grand Prix have you seen actually around the world? Have you seen many live?
I'm a novice in this area. Obviously, I've been actively involved in every one that's been staged here. But prior to us winning the contract, indeed, I'd have to say that my knowledge of Grand Prix generally was pretty minor. I did a bit of fast learning in order to do a bit of negotiating, and of course now, like many people, I'm hooked.
Did you ever believe when it was first mooted that we're going to have a Grand Prix here in Australia, it was going to be Adelaide, it was a street circuit, did you ever believe it could end up being this successful?
Well, I guess the answer is, in one sense, yes. I really thought we could do it, and I thought it would have a big response. But you know, the reality often goes beyond your expectation. The scale of the event, the fact we have now a 4-day carnival is unique in the world on the Grand Prix circuit and is very special. So this is the biggest single international event Australia stages, and we stage it every year.
What sort of revenue does it bring into South Australia?
We've done some studies that suggest something like $40 million is spent in and around the event. You know, there's even a bit of spending going on here now as crews sell off some of the clothing and bits and pieces of the cars and so on. I mean, there is a huge commercial infrastructure that is related to the event.
Does the new circuit in Sydney at Eastern Creek concern you at all? I mean, I know there's been a lot of rumour that Mr. Greiner is going to try and get this event up there one day.
They'd be battling to get the sort of community response and the fiesta attitude. I think Adelaide's about the right size to really turn an event on like this, totally involve the population, and we've proved we can do it year by year. As far as FISA and FOCA are concerned, they don't want to move. And as long as we can successfully stage the event, we'll keep it.
Well, I mean, it really has turned Adelaide around. It's just a delight to walk around and see the outside cafes and the people milling in the parks, and you have concerts, you have rock concerts, you have opera, there's theatre. I mean, it's not just motor racing, it's a whole stack of things that entertain all walks of life.
Well, we regard it as a sort of showcase of the Adelaide and South Australian lifestyle, and of course it's a marvellous opportunity to demonstrate that to the world. But there's a spin-off for the rest of the country as well. You know, people come down to Australia and they stay a few weeks and they travel around the country. It's a great opportunity for the nation as a whole, and certainly one that we ought to take full advantage of. As long as we keep doing this event well, and the word of mouth is spreading, don't worry, it will get bigger and bigger.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. Fantastic. Well done. Kenny, he's a happy chappy.
And why shouldn't he be? South Australia has done it again. He makes a very, very good point. I think this is very much unique to South Australia now, Alan, isn't it? The Australian Grand Prix and the way they go about it.
Well, look, you know, at the end of the day, they all had their chance to have it, and they didn't. And Adelaide, you know, bit the bullet. They went ahead, got it, and they're doing a fabulous job, and I don't think it deserves to go anywhere else while they continue to do such a fabulous job.
Jackie, you have the same opinion?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there's a better run Grand Prix in the world today than this one, from every point of view. I mean, we've had 329,000 people come to this weekend of racing. I can tell you, as the Premier just said, the motor racing community love to come down here, and it's going to build and build to more and more people come from overseas for this Grand Prix. They come down, they go up to the Great Barrier Reef, they go to the islands, they have a fantastic time in Australia, and then they come to the best run Grand Prix with a fantastic event built round it. It's a whole week of speed and excitement.
Yeah, and what has tremendously impressed me this time is that what they've done to that main grandstand and the control area. I mean, that press centre it would stand on its own at any Olympic Games, of any major sporting event that I've ever been to.
Well, I've been there each day, as a matter of fact, as part of the media program here. It's got a national media room, it's got an international media room, it's got a restaurant in there, it's got interview opportunities, it's got all the technology on satellite communications. It's a fantastic thing. $5.5 million worth of temporary accommodation down there that will be taken down and put back up next year. And each year, Ken, it gets bigger and better and more complete. They really do a fantastic job. To the organisers alone, I may well say it again today as we leave this show, but I really take my hat off to them. FISA takes their hat off, FIA, the governing body, do, the Grand Prix drivers, the mechanics, because they're well looked after down here with the facilities they have in the garages you're looking at right now in our picture. All of the fraternity absolutely respect everything that's been done here in Adelaide.
What baffles me is I cannot imagine coming to this place without seeing this. I just don't know what it looks like without what we see before us right now. I mean, you've seen it and what they do, they transform this beautiful park into what we've got here.
Well, I come down each year to do the inaugural ticket sales and what have you, and I come here and I don't see any of this, and it really is quite strange.
All right, we will be back. We've got plenty more still to come from Adelaide at the 1990 Australian Grand Prix. Only 2 Australians have been crowned World Drivers' Champion in Formula One's 40-year history. And this is still the scenes that we're seeing down here in Adelaide. One of them is a member of our wide world of sports team these days, Alan Jones, the 1980 champion. The other, of course, is Sir Jack Brabham, champion in 1959, 60 and 66. And for the story of one Aussie Grand Prix great, who better to tell it than the other?
It's Lever, he's won it.
The 1960s. For Australian sport, the champagne decade of the century. Rod Laver and Ken Rosewall. There was Margaret Court, of course. And Lionel Rose, what a champion he was. Herb Elliott and Ron Clark. And the queen of the pool, Dawn Fraser. It was an Aussie stampede across the playing fields of the world. And leading the charge, a quietly spoken, fiercely dedicated racing driver named John Arthur Brabham.
Black Jack. Jack was one of the toughest racing drivers I ever raced against. He was very single-minded, he was very dedicated, he did things all on his own, his way. Enormously secretive about everything he did. I tell everybody that Jack Brabham didn't tell his mother when he was born. But he was a fantastic competitor and a very successful man. I admire him very much. The way he's carried himself and the way he's represented your country. I tell you, you've had few better ambassadors than Jack Brabham.
On Formula One's honour roll, only the name Juan Manuel Fangio appears more times than Jack Brabham's. Fangio won 5 World Drivers' Championships, Brabham won 3, as would Jackie Stewart, Nelson Piquet and Alain Prost in the years that followed. In 1959, Brabham snatched the title in a Cooper Climax, making him the first British-powered champion of the modern era. In 1960, again in a rear-engine Cooper, he won 5 of the 9 races, 5 in a row in fact, and took the title ahead of his Cooper teammate, New Zealand's Bruce McLaren. But Brabham was more than just a driver, he was an engineer. His dream was to build an Australian racing team, and in 1962, he invited this man to England to help him do it. He's Ron Turenak, and back in the early 50s, he and Jack used to build midget and hill climb cars. Now, under the banner of Motor Racing Developments and with help of Repco, they began to build Formula 2, Formula Junior and Formula Tasman cars for the fast-growing market. And by 1963, they had a 2-car Formula 1 racing team ready to roll.
First cars were called MRD and the company, and then we started to sell internationally. And Jack went to Switzerland, and someone told him the French connotation of MRD, which is murd and covered all over in dirty stuff. I was on the spot really because we had agreed originally that we wouldn't use either of our names in the car, and Jack was at a press meeting in Switzerland when he was told of this, and so he rang and said, well, what do we do? So we agreed on the spot to call them Brabhams.
Well, it took a bit of time, of course. We started the team in '63, and it was
really 65, 66 before we were up into a position where we could win races. So, yeah, it's not all that easy. Winning races even in those days wasn't all that easy, and of course today there's so much more competition. There's so many big teams running. I think it'll be a lot harder today.
Although Jack lived in England during his phenomenal 16-year career in Formula One, in the off-season each year he would come home for the Formula Tasman Series. What's more, most of his famous peers would come with him. The great Jim Clark, world champion in 63 and 65, Graham Hill, another double winner in 62 and 68, the American Phil Hill, the 1961 champion, and New Zealand's Bruce McLaren, one of the best drivers never to wear the championship crown. They all raced here in the 60s. The designers and engineers used the Tasman Series as a proving ground for their Formula One ideas. For most, these were the good old days, when motor racing was much more about people as it was about machines.
I think one's lost a lot of the friendship that was available, particularly in Formula One. In the early days, although we were competitors, we used to help our competitors, but now everyone in Formula One is scared that someone's going to pinch their ideas, so they run very closed shops and stick team by team.
But not everyone looks back with love on those bygone days. Ron Dennis, today the McLaren Team Supremo, came to the Repco Brabham outfit from Cooper in the late 60s.
You know, there were hard days in my own career. They didn't have the satisfaction that I feel the mechanics have now, and they didn't have the recognition. And you were a little bit of a second-class citizen, there's no doubt about that. I look at those old cars with embarrassment. I think they're so technically far away from what we have now that you feel, if only I knew then what I know now, sort of thing. I'm sure that all the designers feel the same way. You could just have done it so much better if you'd carried with you just a modicum of the knowledge that you now have, or one now has.
In 1966, with the new 3-litre formula in operation, Jack Brabham's Repco V8 reeled off 4 victories in a row. They gave him his 3rd Drivers' Championship and a place in history as the first man to win a Grand Prix in a car bearing his own name.
Well, I think I was a competitive driver, that's the thing, you know. It's pretty difficult to judge a driver for one driver from another because there's so much revolves around the luck of being in the right car at the right time, having the right engine and the team. It's a package deal. You've got to have the right package to be able to win, whether you're a good driver or you're not.
Well, the Brabham package was right again in 1967, except that it was New Zealand's Denny Holm in the number 2 car who ended up nosing Jack out of his 4th Drivers' Championship. Brabham stayed at the wheel for 3 more seasons, again almost winning that 4th title in his retirement year, 1970. 20 years later, he's wondering if he shouldn't have stayed at the wheel a little while longer.
I didn't retire because I didn't feel I could drive anymore. It was just sort of family pressures. Everybody was telling me I was too old, you know, sort of thing. But no, I was still enjoying my driving and I was still competitive. And I'd like to have gone on, really. And looking back now, I wish I had.
Despite his regrets, Sir Jack Brabham, in the eyes of his countrymen, certainly had nothing left to prove. He was a great racer in the era of great races. But unlike any other champion before or since, his name lives on in Formula One with the cars that still bear his name, and now with the sons who do the same. But that's another story, and we'll be back to tell you all about it in just a moment.
Yeah, lovely piece there by Alan Jones. He retired at 44, Jack, and he didn't like it. Maybe you retired too early.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I've just been talking to Jackie, and really, there must have been a reason. I mean, at the time you think it's a good idea, then a couple of years go by and you think, oh, maybe I did give it away too early. But, you know, you must have done it for a good reason at the time. You're a little bit burnt out. I got homesick myself. I know Jack got homesick. You know, it is the best country in the world, and, you know, if you can live here all the time, you know, it's not a bad place. I mean, people immigrate to live here.
Did you want one more year, Jackie?
No, I was very, very lucky. I retired exactly when I wanted to. I've had no regrets. I've had no itch to get back. There's been no withdrawal symptoms. The decision I made, I think, was the best decision I made in my entire life. if it was the right decision then, why was it not later on? And I've never felt as if it was the wrong decision. I was one of the lucky ones. Some other drivers have done it differently. And of course, it's so easy for me to get back to the finest country in the world, which is Scotland, after all.
Oh, give us a break, Jackie.
The weather's great there.
We were taking you seriously up until that point. Now you've been completely dismissed. All right, now we join Anna Gregory for a sports update.
Thank you, Ken. Well, Australia has had a great day at the World Rowing Titles at Lake Barrington in Tasmania. The Aussies won 3 medals, including a gold in the men's coxless fours. The Australian crew led throughout the race to clinch our first gold medal of the regatta. They won the race by the length from the Dutch, with the East Germans finishing in 3rd place in a time of 5 minutes, 52.2 seconds. The medal chase began earlier in the day when the women's lightweight fours won a silver medal. In front of a parochial crowd of 12,000, the crew led at the 1,500 metre mark, only to be overtaken by the Canadian crew, who ran winners by half a length to take the gold medal in a time of 6 minutes, 38.40 seconds. The 1989 champs, China, finished 3rd. And our 3rd medal of the day came when the Aussie men won a bronze medal in the lightweight quad scull. The Italian crew took the gold medal after leading throughout in a time of 5 minutes 46.38 seconds, with the French 2nd and the Aussies in 3rd place, 3.34 seconds behind the Italians. Well, players resumed in the New South Wales Golf Open being played at Bathurst. Overnight, leader Ken Trimble blew up on the first hole, having a double bogey, but has since settled down to birdie 3 holes and is at 8 under, 2 strokes ahead of Peter O'Malley. And Ken Dukes and Ray Picker are both 5 under. Leading amateur is still Lucas Parsons from Orange. To cricket, and play has resumed at the Wacker in the tour match between Western Australia and England. In their 2nd innings, the Sandgropers are none for 101 at lunch, with Jeff Marsh on 48 and Mike Valletta on 42. And at the Gabba, the Shield match between Queensland and South Australia has been delayed due to rain. The players left the field in the middle session with the Maroons still in a commanding position, with the visitors 2 for 74 in their 2nd innings after being forced to follow on. When play stopped, Peter Nobes was 30 and David Hooks was 2. And finally, at the SCG, New South Wales have declared at 9 for 489. Mark Taylor is on 183 and Stephen Waugh was 83. In their 2nd innings, Tasmania are no wicket for 5. And on that note, I'll hand you back to Ken at the Grand Prix.
Thank you very much, Anna. Well, we know that the show business people, the rock and rollers, they like to get out in a motor car every now and again. We've had people like Mark Knopfler, and of course we've had others like Glenn Shorrock, and we've had plenty more. George Harrison fancies himself, as I would imagine a lot of these people still hanging around in the pits, just waiting for a glimpse of maybe Alain Prost, or to buy or to get a bargain. And there's some of the crew selling off their gear here and making a bit of a profit, I would imagine. But talking about people who aspire to other things other than what they do very, very well, Darryl Eastlake is talking to Glenn Shorrock from Little River Band.
Well, it was only a couple of years ago, Glenn Shorrock, that we were sort of banging door handles and boot lids and bonnets, and, well, you damaged my car.
Didn't we have fun?
It was sensational, but fun is the operative word here, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great, I've been here every year, and this is no exception. It's been a wonderful, wonderful race, fantastic race. Did you see that last corner?
Yes, I did. I mean, it's very, very difficult working in the pits, but everyone goes from monitors back to the pits to headphones and all that sort of thing. But it's just that total excitement. And, of course, Senna looked like he had it wrapped up and then it changes. It's so unpredictable.
Well, it was most enjoyable for me this year because I had no commitments, really, except to try and sing the national anthem, which we tried to do, but they sent him off in the warm-up lap halfway through it, which cracked us all up. It was very funny. Vanetta Fields was conducting it. It was as though she'd started the race. They suddenly took off. But I've had a relaxing day, and I'm very thrilled with the situation here. I mean, you just talked to John Bannon, and he is too. This is probably the best one we've had.
Glenn, you are a bit of a petrol head.
Yeah, I am. I admit that. I don't know why. It's always been in my blood ever since I was a kid. I mean, today I sat next to Sterling Moss, and then all of a sudden I go to another place and I sit down and there's Fangio sitting next to me. So I shook his hand. Do you want to shake that hand? No, I mean, they were boyhood heroes of mine.
Exactly, and it's that sort of weekend that, and I guess, Fangio came up to me through his interpreter and said I was sitting next door to Glenn Shorrock.
In Argentinian, of course. You got me, I'm speechless.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, two old fellas there having a good old Chinwag. Isn't it funny how, you know, tennis players want to be rock and roll stars, golfers want to do something else? I mean, everyone wants to do something that they, you know, that their life isn't involved around. There's a passion somewhere.
The other man's grass is always greener.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I mean, you've seen it so many times, I would imagine.
Yeah. Actually, it was funny listening to those two. They're a couple of racing car drivers, you know. You got me into the corner and all this. I'd hate to see what they're going on about now.
But some of those rock and rollers in the entertainment industry, they are very good, Jackie. I mean, they're not just, it's not idle occupation. They take it seriously.
They do indeed. I think the most famous for taking it seriously and probably one of the best collectors of historic racing cars in the world is the drummer of Pink Floyd, Nick Mason, who's got a fantastic collection of very rare racing cars and actually drives them. George Harrison's got a very good collection of cars. You know, these kind of people enjoy it, but even although he hasn't got great eyesight, Elton John loves cars and he loves driving fast cars. Great deal of the music people, even apart from the actors that we've seen, we've seen Steve McQueen is a great enthusiast. Paul Newman's a very talented driver. A lot of good ones in there. Tom Cruise today is driving a lot.
And of course, James Garner, he was in that famous movie Grand Prix. But yeah, you're right, they've been involved over many, many years. Still more to come here from the Adelaide Grand Prix after the break.
Both of these families have rented cars for the holidays. But while one family booked a standard daily rate, this one took advantage of the Avis Super Saver offer. So the longer they rent, the cheaper it gets. And because they prepaid for 1 week using Avis Super Saver, the 7th day's rental becomes very cheap indeed. In fact, it's absolutely free. Help! With Avis Super Saver and 1 day's free rental, wouldn't you rather drive an Avis car on holidays?
Pizza Hut delivering great, delivering friendly as fast as we can. Crispy and chewy, cooked in a pan. Delivering value, delivery hot. Hitting the road and hitting the spot. Delivering your way straight to your doorway. Delivering best, more than the rest. Delivering early, we know you can't wait. Pizza Hut delivering great.
Limited home delivery now available.
An American Motor Trend magazine passed over Toyota, Peugeot and BMW to award US Import Car of the Year to the Galant. From who else but Mitsubishi?
You can't run a business without the right tools, and the most important tool a tradesman can have is a mobile phone.
Now, one of my customers.
Telecom MobileNet, Australia's own.
Good evening. Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein has...
The Adelaide 36ers last night.
Accurate, concise, immediate. When it's important, you'll see it first on National 9 News at weekend.
Australia's Greg Norman has lost...
A battle over a sensitive environmental issue.
And those game enough to write him. National 9 News, the undisputed leader. Weekends at 6.
When the news came through. When the news came through.
That's the news, sport and weather up to the minute.
And they told it like it was when the news came through.
Back at the Adelaide Grand Prix, and this is the aftermath of what we have seen here this afternoon. 12 non-finishes. This is the car of Taquini. Jackie, do we have any idea exactly what happened? We saw a little bit of it, but what caused it and so on?
Well, I saw the car parked on the left-hand side of Brabham Straight about 2/3 way down there. It's still burbling there by the looks of it. There's a lot of temperature still in there. It clearly caught fire. It's the Ford V8 engine that they've got in that car. Looks to me like it had a proper fuel or oil fire. It may well have been an oil pipe that burst, because it generally takes a leak of some kind to start a fire of that size. It often looks much worse than it is because of the powder that's thrown on the fire to suffocate it. But that car, obviously, its wiring and everything else needs a lot of rewiring and a lot of attention.
Well, the main thing is that he walked away from it completely unharmed. They say there's nothing that makes a father prouder than to see his sons follow in his footsteps, or in the case of Sir Jack Brabham, in his slipstream. Continuing the Brabham legend, of course, are sons Geoffrey, Gary and David. Here's Alan Jones again.
Silverstone in England, the British Grand Prix, round 8 of the 1990 season. For the famous Brabham team, these are less than famous days. Just qualifying this year has been a struggle, particularly for the team's number 2 driver, David Brabham. And if ever he'd like to win a spot on the grid, it's today, because prowling around pit lane is a 3-times world champion with the same name as his, and who's probably dying to offer some fatherly advice.
Well, no, he's gone a bit past me giving him the advice, really. In the early days, I obviously gave him a lot of advice in Australia, and we worked well together. And, of course, David showed his talent very early on, and the fact that he's in Formula 1 here today is fantastic, and I'm very proud to be here to be watching him.
If ever 3 sons were born to race, they are the Brabham brothers. Born in England while their father was busy making the Brabham name famous, the family blood was soon revving through their veins. For the youngest, though, the urge to follow in his father's tyre tracks was a little slow in coming.
Well, Dad retired when I was 4.5, so I can actually remember him going past somewhere. I don't know where it was, but I've always read all the books and looked at Dad's photo album and the clippings, and I wish I was around in that time. I reckon that would have been great. Then my brother started to race, and I really didn't have any interest with racing till I was about 16. So I never really saw Dad race. I wasn't involved. Jeffrey was. That's a better question for Jeffrey. But for me, I've come at a late stage as far as Dad was concerned. He'd say, you know, what are you going to do in your life? And I didn't have an answer for that one. So then when I decided to go racing, he thought it was a bit of a joke and thought that, you know, oh, here we go, flash in the pan sort of thing. And I stuck with it ever since, and when he realised I was serious, then he put 100% behind it.
David's elder brother, Jeff, has chased his motor racing fortune in America, in everything from sports cars to Indy cars. This year, for the 2nd season in a row, he's the national IMS car champion, a class equivalent to our own Group C. For the other Brabham brother, Gary, 1990 has been a cruel year. This was his debut season in Formula 1 as well, of course. But after failing to qualify for the first 2 races, he left the doomed Italian Life team deeply disappointed. Now he's back in Formula 3000 and taking a day off at Silverstone to watch his baby brother.
I'd love to be out there, but you know, I'm here and I'm barracking David. David and I are very close and get on very well as brothers, and I'm his #1 supporter. He's done very well, because coming from Formula 3 to Formula 1 is a hell of a difference. It's like jumping from a Mini Minor to a Ferrari F40. You've got to adjust to the type of performance of the car, and he's done a terrific job, and I'm very proud of him.
At this, the halfway point of the season, rumours are already flying about the future of Brabham's #1 driver, the Italian Stefano Modena. As things turned out, of course, his ride next season will now be with the Tyrrell team. And what a glorious quirk of fate it would be if the man to replace him turned out to be another Brabham.
Well, I'd like it to happen. Both David and I would like to team up together next year, but you know, it all depends on whether Modena goes and whether with the Yamaha engine deal they have next year, whether they prefer a Japanese driver, or so many things can happen. All I want to do this year is win a few Formula 3000 races, and you never know what might happen. I'm walking around the pits at the moment throwing banana skins in all the garages.
Perhaps a couple of those banana skins found their way onto the track as well, because Modena manages to wreck his Brabham, and he tries to explain why to a man who had been twice world champion before the Italian was even born.
The car just went. Couldn't stay there.
With Modena now in his reserve car, there's even more pressure on David to qualify. There are only 26 places on the grid, and if he misses out, it won't be by much, and it won't make a proud father any less proud.
Well, I have a lot of confidence that David's got control of himself, and I think that's probably the most important thing in racing today. You can't be a top driver unless you've got complete control of what you're doing. You've got to have confidence in your own ability, and you've got to have the talent there to do it. And I think David's got all that, and he seems to have the same sort of temperament that I had. Seems to take it all in his stride. He doesn't get excited about it. He's got control of himself.
Way too much. Just like that. And we lost it.
So we go back to what we have.
Coming into Adelaide, David has done well to win a start in 7 of the 14 races he's contested. Unhappily, this British Grand Prix was not to be one of them.
On the 2 cars, myself and Stefano, we had a failure on the rear end with the new gearbox, and Stefano unfortunately ended up in the wall at Stowe, which is a 5th gear corner, and mine broke coming out of a corner at Cops, which wasn't so bad, I didn't hit anything, but that delayed us in putting the old gearbox back on the car, and we had about 20 minutes left in qualifying, and we had to try and dial in a new car, and we couldn't do it. We ran out of time, so we missed tomorrow's race.
So, with the exception of Jeffrey over there in America, it's been a difficult year for the sons of the famous father. Gary's experience with the ill-fated Life team has made him only more determined to make it into Formula One. Who knows, perhaps one day we'll see all 3 brothers racing each other. In this, the sport that has made theirs a household name around the world.
Yeah, we haven't really raced against each other, so it's not really that way, but if it's any sort of rivalry, it's between, it's sort of their own, but I'm looking forward to the day that we all get together one day and show who's boss.
Yeah, brothers out on the racetrack. That's I reckon that's probably almost a dangerous combination, Alan.
Yeah, well, actually, funny enough, Gary and David are going to be joining our team next weekend at Eastern Creek. So at least I'll have a chance to drive the same car under the same conditions.
It'd be like an audition for the Formula One Brabhams, maybe.
Well, I think they're going to find it a little bit different than a Formula One Brabham, that's for sure, more like a truck.
What about these father and son combinations? You know, the son follows father, and father has all the worries and so forth that he never ever thought he would have or could understand when he was racing. Jackie, we've talked about it. Alan, your dad was a racer. Was it automatic that you would be the same?
Well, I can just remember, as long ago as I can't remember, that for me it was just going to be a natural progression. As soon as I got my licence, I was going to get my competition licence and I was going to go motor racing. That was it for me. And I really now aren't really fussed whether my son goes in it or not. And if he doesn't want to go in it, I won't be disappointed at all. Because I do know the pitfalls. You have to have a certain amount of luck. It's a heartbreaking profession. And I suppose being a typical dad, I'd be just as happy if he came to me now and said, I want to be a professional person or a successful anchorman like yourself, Ken, and earn lots of money.
I don't know where you got that from, Alan. But anyway, let's move on to Jackie. Well, Jackie, we've got to go to a commercial break, but it's a line there I want to take up with you. Where did you get your initial love of the speed and so forth? But certainly you've given it to your boy. We'll be back with more in Adelaide right after the break. Lots of activity still here in pit lane. The race has been over for some time now, won by Nelson PK. That fellow has snared himself a wonderful souvenir. It is a car tyre, but Jackie Stewart, I don't know what he's going to do with it.
He'll probably put a bit of glass on top of it and have it as a coffee table. Ironically, they sell for quite big money, and that's how it's a souvenir. I think that happens to be a Pirelli tyre by the looks of it, or it may be not from a Formula One car at all. But that's what happens to them.
It's like they've caught the big one. They're tickle pink with their little bit of a prize there from the Grand Prix. Jackie, before we went to that commercial break, how did you get involved? I mean, did you inherit your love of speed from somebody? Because your boy has obviously had it.
Yes, actually, my mother was the fast driver of the family, but my brother, 8 years older than I, was the racing driver, and he took up racing when I was very young and followed around with an autograph book that I still have today, and I've got all these great champions of the past. But I think it does run in the family. There must be something in the genes, because if you think of the Unsers, if you think of the Andrettis, if you think of the Joneses and the Brabhams, there's a great run of drivers. In America, the Dollenbachs, the Vukovic's, all around the world there's fathers and sons. I absolutely would have preferred my son not to be a racing driver. He went to university at my insistence. He was not allowed to drive a racing car until he completed his education. And he's now doing it very seriously, and we have a very serious racing team back in Europe, but I still say I would have preferred him to be in another profession, and that's very selfish of me.
And today's champion, of course, Nelson PK. He's got a young boy, 14 years old, running around in a go-kart.
Very successfully, yeah.
Well, that last corner for Nigel Mansell, it was a corner where he had to do something very, very different to try and get past Jackie to make this into a win for him. Was he imprudent? Did he go over the top?
Well, I think here, Alan, you have a comment to make on this.
Well, look, to my mind, this is a wonderful example about this new committee that they're starting up. Now, look, Mansell's going for a gap. PK crosses across his bow, and they have a touch. Now, 1 split second later or earlier, or a centimetre earlier or later, he could have ridden over the top of him. Now, let's just say, for instance, that was Prost and Senna. Now, would Senna come under all hell again?
Well, what I think what it does need is people of your quality, Alan, and perhaps mine and other racing drivers. I think Nigel Mansell was having brake fade when that happened. And in fact, he mentioned it to me off camera, the fact that he did have brake fade. And in fact, I think he ran out of hankers. And the fact that Nelson cut across there, I'm not sure that Nelson actually saw him because he was fairly wide of his car, as you probably saw. I think the vision of that rear view mirror to Nelson Piquet, I think that Nigel Mansell, was perhaps out of frame. But I think that if you and I were on a committee of the governing body of motorsport and we were able to sit through this videotape and play it a dozen times together in the room with 2 or 3 other, what I would call experts, I think we would be able to give a ruling based on the circumstances, the timing of the race, the situation that perhaps could prevail. I don't think it's a question of just saying, because someone cut across your bow, we must penalise that person. There's very little black and white in our business, as you know. There's a lot of grey, but it takes a good person to suss out when penalties should be introduced and when they shouldn't. I do not think that was a set of circumstances where I would have been prepared to take any disciplinary action personally.
Absolutely not. I mean, that was a classic racing accident, or could have been a racing accident.
Very close to it.
And a situation where you've got 2 guys fighting for the lead. Nigel comes in.
And look at Nelson there. I'm sure Nelson is totally oblivious of Mansell's car there because of the distance he was away in width. He was a good car width away.
And it has to be said, Jackie, I mean, on the podium we heard Nigel very, very gracious towards Nelson. If he had been very, very upset and felt that Nelson had dudded him, I'm sure he wouldn't have been quite as gracious. He accepted it fairly well.
Well, that's my point. I mean, if those two would have been having a bit of a contretemps over the year, that might have been a situation that Mansell could have taken advantage of and said he deliberately cut in front of me, he deliberately cut me up, and because of what's been going on in the press all year, he might have been believed. So my fear is that as this panel of people, are they going to be sufficiently qualified to be able to make good judgments on that sort of an incident?
Well, I think the whole business of judgments of that kind have to be handled correctly. That's why the Jockey Club is so good in the equestrian world.
Well, time will tell. Let's take a look at just how they did finish here this afternoon. Nelson Piquet is the champion in Adelaide for 1990. He won from Nigel Mansell. Alain Prost finished 3rd, so it was a good 2-3 for Ferrari. Gerhard Berger, Boutsen and Patrese, they were the top 6. We will have highlights of that tremendous race a little later in the show. We'll be back in a moment. And the great garage sale continues down on pit lane. Everything is for sale. Everything has a price. And believe you me, the price is being paid down there. We've seen some shoes, there you are, a pair of shoes there being auctioned off. Jackie was just telling me that Carlo Patrese had a pair of shoes auctioned off one time, $8,000 US. And you can buy them for £90 in any store around the world. So I guess if you're a real F1 fanatic, it means something to you. Well, I guess one of the real talking points today was the man who was way out in front, seemed to have everything in control. He was just going to cruise through for what seemed to be a very easy victory here in Adelaide, and that's Ayrton Senna. You got any reasons to know why he went off, where he did?
In short, no. I'm a bit confused, to be honest with you, Ken. Here he is now. He's just going into the corner, and he's got understeer, but it just looks like he's gone in too quick. He's still got plenty of lock on. There's no smoke coming from the tyres. So whether the brakes haven't given him the bite that he wanted, which has allowed him to go into the corner a bit, obviously too quicker than what he wanted to. He had a little bit more lock on than what you'd normally expect, and it's just understeered straight off. It'd be interesting to see when he hops out of the car. So he's very slow getting out of the car. I don't know whether a little bit of fatigue may have come into it. I don't know,
He did go behind the fence, and he did sit down there for a while. And Jackie does point out that just before he did go into the rubber there was a slight misdemeanor on one of the corners. He did go a little bit wide and hung it out a little bit.
Well, he was behind one of the Williams cars, and he seemed to run out of brakes as far as I was concerned. The brake fade factor was something that was somewhat of a topic during this whole Grand Prix, and it just seemed to me that he may have had brake fade. Now, the lack of deceleration going into that corner as he was turning in, and we can see it there, it seemed that his line was right. He seemed to be getting lined up for the corner. He wasn't out of line, he was a bit wide, he just didn't hit the apex. He hit that tyre wall very hard. It's either that he's had a complete lapse of concentration, could have been from dehydration, could have been from tiredness. He did take a long time to get out the cockpit of the car, as Alan said. And as you pointed out, when he went behind the wall, he sat down immediately. Now, whether he was very exhausted or dehydrated, or whether it was just brakes, I think only McLaren can tell us.
But up until then, he was absolutely electrifying. As we've mentioned a couple of times this weekend, the latest scuttlebutt about F1 in the 1990s is that we're going to see a return to Grand Prix racing by the famous German manufacturer BMW. And as Alan Jones reports, if it makes as good a job of it as it did the first time around, it could raise quite a few eyebrows.
1936 at the Nürburgring, the start of the Eifelrennen, one of two famous annual races in Germany. And while the Grand Prix cars of Mercedes and Auto Union and Alfa stage a wet weather struggle in the open class, in the 1.5 and 2.5 litre classes for sports cars, it's no contest. BMW reigns supreme. And so it was through the 1930s as the Bavarian Motor Works took on every road racing challenge available, from the popular endurance events like the French Alpine Rally and the Le Mans 24-hour race, to the frightening speeds and hair-raising bank turns of the Avis-Rennen race in Berlin. BMW was forging a name for itself in motorsports that has endured for 60 years. In the 1970s, BMW had formed its own motorsports division, an impressive complex at Garching near Munich, and it thrived on a feast of victories in touring cars and in Formula 2.
We had a very successful time in Formula 2. We won 6 times the European Championship in Formula 2. 80% of the grid actually at those days started with BMW engines.
Munich-built 4-cylinder engines dominated Formula 2 in those days and propelled drivers like Jean-Pierre Jarier, Patrick Depailler and Jacques Lafitte into the brighter lights of Formula 1. And the lure of those bright lights eventually proved too much for BMW as well. In the early 80s, it teamed up with the Brabham Racing Team, now owned by Bernie Ecclestone, and set about proving that anything Renault or Ford or Ferrari could do, it could do as well, if not better.
The reason behind was a clear marketing reason, besides this competition reason. Why Formula 1? Because Formula 1 is the most international racing scenery in the world. It's till today. And in these 3-4 years we did this Formula 1, I think we could raise our worldwide acceptance quite good.
Worldwide acceptance was especially good in 1983, when Brazil's Nelson Piquet became the first turbocharged world champion in a Brabham BMW. It was the highlight of a 6-year romance with Formula 1, during which BMW also supplied engines for Arrows and ATS, and in 1986 the Benetton teams. For engine designer Paul Roche, those 6 seasons may have only whetted his appetite, because rumours are rife that he is now working on a return to Formula 1 by BMW. Back at Motorsports headquarters, though, no one is talking, not about Formula 1 anyway.
Endurance races are very important for us as far as quality is concerned, and as far as the durability and reliability of the cars is concerned. That still means a lot to BMW.
By racing, we can prove a lot. If you think about endurance racing for 24 hours in Spa, for example, or on the Nürburgring, it definitely shows that our racing cars are able to race successfully over 24 hours. And it's a tremendous proof for the durability and the reliability of our cars over a very stressy test, I would say. I mean, it's not only a marketing, it's not only a marketing gimmick. It definitely has technically, it proves the technical advantages of our cars to a high respect, as we think.
When the BMW M3 appeared in Group A racing in 1987, the Australian Touring Car Championship for Jim Richards was just one of its international achievements. In 1987, the M3 won the first and only World Touring Car Championship, as well as the European and German titles. The last European Championship ever held was also won by the M3. And although BMW is in favour of standardising Group A racing so that the World and European Championships can be resurrected, until that happens, it's going to get on with business.
Firstly, I think it's interesting to have regulations which are valid in all nations of the world. And the second step, if we can do a European or a World Championship above this, it would be okay. But first of all, I think the step should be that we can do one development in engines and cars we can sell worldwide.
Motorsports and marketing, the racetrack and the showroom floor. For BMW, it's a multi-billion-dollar marriage that produces more than just great publicity. It produces great road cars, like the M5, the latest thoroughbred in the Munich stable.
Yeah, lovely-looking motor car. Jackie and Alan, what's the queue up for people wanting to get into Formula One? I mean, what's the criteria if a manufacturer says, I want to get there?
It takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of courage. For example, Mercedes-Benz and BMW are really, I think, a little frightened to come into Formula One right now because the Japanese are in, and particularly Honda. And that is a big threat because they're showing their dominance right now. They're attacking Ferrari, Ford are in there, Renault are in there, etc. It's very tough for a big name to come in and take on that kind of dominance.
Well, we've still got a lot more to come here at the Adelaide Grand Prix right after the break.
Allora, signori, tutti spettatori italiani, andate a vedere domani il Grand Prix perché il canale 9, Channel 9, fa un bel lavoro a farvi vedere la televisione. Va bene? Andate tutti a vedere. Come and see us.
Channel 9.
Channel 9. Channel 9.
Back in Adelaide, still a big crowd here in pit lane buying what has been left over from a marvellous Grand Prix. In fact, the 500th Grand Prix of the modern era. But of course, they were racing long before that. And here is a tribute to the racers ever since they started going on around those tracks at great speeds. From 1903, we pick up this musical tribute.
touch and go game of suicide. Now I'm an Adelaide man with a hard road, and I'll heat you up when your body gets cold. So ivory tower man, was it part of your plan? Turn this city to sand with a one-way ticket to the promised land. Atomic playboys, we are radiation Romeos. You built this body, but can't take away my soul. Atomic playboys, we are radiation Romeos. You stole the sky, you did it to watch the world explode. Romeo! Atomic playboys, we are radiation Romeos. You built this body, but can't take away my soul. No. Atomic playboys, we are radiation Romeos. You stole the sky and did to watch the
Various parts of the world. Jackie, you particularly enjoyed that music piece.
Wonderful, wasn't it? It was just, it brought out the life. Steve Stevens, it was a terrific number, and I don't know how many edits the fellas got into that show, but it really, over 400 edits, somebody's shouting in my ear. That's an amazing thing. What a great show. It really livened up the audience at home, I guarantee you. Wonderful.
Well, that's life in the fast lane. Well, like a Formula One car, Nine's Wide World of Sports just keeps on racing along, and we're going to keep the old foot to the floor next weekend as well. Have a look at this. The home of sports is the wide world of sports, and next Saturday afternoon you're going to feel right at home when we take you live to Eastern Creek, Australia's newest motor racing circuit, for the running of the Nissan Sydney 500. If you thought the touring cars were hot here in Adelaide, wait till you see them reach boiling point at Eastern Creek. Live next Saturday afternoon, don't miss it. Then on Sunday, we're going to kick up a racket at White City in Sydney as we bring you live the Centenary Legends Tennis. Nuke will be there, so will Muscles Rosewell, and Tony Roach will be at the net as well. Blast from the Past, live on Centre Court next Sunday afternoon. So prepare yourself to receive service next weekend on Australia's #1 sports machine, Nine's Wide World of Sports. Well, Jackie, it has been a pleasure, but that brings to an end another Formula One circus down here in Australia.
Well, it's been a great trip for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it, as ever, working with everyone in Channel 9. You've got a fantastic crew down here, a better telecast you couldn't have had, so many good camera angles, a great team of people. I, for my part, would just like to congratulate once again the organisers, everyone who put this great event on, to To Channel 9, I thank you very much. And to Ken Yu, thank you very much for making my visit up here such a comfortable one. I always enjoy coming down here, and it's been great to work with everyone, including Alan, of course.
Well, Alan, it's another year where we sort of almost tomorrow we start gearing up for another big one in 1991, which will be Grand Prix 516 next year.
Well, Ken, it's just today's been such a fabulous race, but the whole 4 days is it's a great atmosphere. I mean, that's what I try and get the message across to people. It's a great race, but the whole atmosphere is fantastic here.
Well, thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Alan. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the last 7 hours as much as we did, and we'll catch you next time around on Nine's Wide World of Sports.
Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of the guns and pumps and explode into space. I like smoking lightning, heavy metal thunder, racing with the wind, and the feel of it. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild. Get some motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, now we go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns at once and explode into space. Like a true nature's child, we were born to be wild. We can climb so high, I never wanna die. Born to be wild. Born to be wild.
This has been another presentation from Nine's Wide World of Sports. The 1990 Foster's Australian Formula One Grand Prix telecast, sponsored by Ford.